Dragoni's father won. Click. From out of the blue, a crisp sound rang out from the study structure. It's a clear sound that echoed across the environment. Emily Shang was the first to react here, and he could see the cause of that sound. Right in front of his eye was a small tiny crack along the stone surface. Though it's hardly worthy to be called a crack, but it's more than enough to make him gawk. How can it be? That monument clearly said that only a demi-divine lord can break it. Yin Yen is only at the high divine level. How did she manage to make a crack on it? For a while, the look self-doubt was all that was plastered along the young man's face. He's obviously having trouble believing his own eyes despite reality being in front of himself. Bai Yin on the other hand didn't let up though. She's unimpressed and continued to barrage the monument further, and at an increasing ferocity, until, boom, like a rocket making impact on its target, the structure suddenly exploded under the final punch from the woman's fist. She's expended after this achievement, collapsing backwards like a wilting flower. Bai Yan's condition wasn't any better than the very thing she destroyed at this moment. Mother! Bai Xiachen cried out and dashed over to catch the falling body. The child wanted to do something to help elevate that pale complexion, but all he managed was a reckless frolicking of his arms in the air like a clueless dote that he was in these situations. Exactly like his old man. Mother! Does it hurt? It's my fault, I couldn't help you. In the steambun's view, he's a man of the family, and should be the one carrying the weight of any problem. It didn't help his consciousness, either when he saw those messed up fingers of Bai Yan's. I'm fine. She forcibly pulls herself back up from the ground and scanned the area for change. The monument is broken, why are we still stuck here? Yen Yen. Emily Shang runs forward and picks up a yellow scroll from the spot where the rubble was. This appeared after the stones shattered. I believe there's a clue in it. Taking it over without a second of delay, Bai Yin quickly opened it and read the content to her own surprise and frown. If the monument is broken by a demi-divine lord, then one shall stay forever. If broken by one not of thee, they shall stand after the break. By now Bai Xiachen had also gotten a look at the scroll by gleaming up from the side, cringing up his face in confusion. What does that mean, mother? What is this stand after break? The woman didn't answer her boy's question though, only tightly clenching onto the scroll and making a deep frown. Xiachen. Emily Shang steps in to explain. I speculate the meaning is that the stone monument can easily be broken by a demi-divine lord's power. However, it also means they will be forever trapped here if one did so. Respectively, those that are beneath said level like your mother may not have an easy time breaking the monument, but it's possible, and it's the key to our escape from this place. This time the party has gambled it right, and it's also due to Bai Yan's love for Ditsong. If not for that powerful emotion, they might have really stayed to do as the word said. By then they really would have been trapped for good. Dragoni's father too. Is that so? Bai Xiachen nods like he's enlightened now before turning back to Bai Yan. But then why is mother ignoring me? Emily Shang also noticed this oddity at this point, furrowing his brow while looking over. Yen Yen. Unfortunately for the two lads there, their words aren't going to reach the woman's ear at this moment, because something else was happening under their very eyes. Right now inside Bai Yan's mind, a haze of fog blinds her sight of view. Where is this place? Who's messing around? She scans the front vigilantly for signs of attack. It's then as if to answer her call, a surreal voice speaks out from all directions. Fated one, if you are able to come to this place, then that means my daughter is with you, right? Daughter. A slightly confused look took hold of Bai Yan's eye. There are only two females in their party, one being herself, and the other being her goddaughter. And if she remembers correctly and without fault, Dragoni should be the daughter of the former dragon chief from the demon realm. It doesn't add up regardless of how she calculated it. Your daughter? You mean Dragoni, my goddaughter? Frowning now along the face and speaking in a hostile tone. I know for a fact she is the daughter of the former dragon chief from the demon realm. Why are you impersonating her birth father? The voice clearly sounded pleased based on its tone despite the aggressive attitude from the other side. You are not wrong in your assumption. Technically speaking, I am her father from a previous life. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, I had to seal her soul up until the opportunity presented itself. In this case, she went into the wheel of life and was reborn, as you said, the daughter of that former dragon chief in your memory. A surprised face promptly gripped Bai Yan's expression, because she knew all along something was amiss when she met Dragoni. The attachment she held towards the girl was strange to say the least, especially when they never met before until her first arrival at the Demon Realm's palace. In light of her own shock, Bai Yan didn't hurry to follow up with more questions. Rather, she gathered her wits to get to the bottom of the current dilemma. Then what is this place that I'm in? If Dragoni is your daughter, does that mean anyone else can also come here if they had her with them? No. The voice sounded faint and distant. That is not the case. The reason I allowed you in here is of my own choice. I sense the blood that is yours inside my daughter's vein. That's why I brought you in here when you picked up the scroll housing my soul. It's also why I am calling you a fated one. Blood? You must be referring to the essence blood I used to save Dragoni. To think the reason why I wound up here is because of that. I'm assuming you didn't summon us in here just to recognize your daughter, is it? There must be another reason as well. Perhaps it's due to the voice's relationship to her own goddaughter. But Bai Yan's tone also softened up when searching the area for signs of the source. You don't have to look for me. I won't come out with my current appearance. It will certainly frighten you if I did so after going through that event. Furthermore, I can't either even if I wanted to, because my continued existence can only be prolonged by staying within the scroll. So, I will have to bother you to keep watch over my daughter in the future. Event? What event are you talking about? You're too weak the way you are to ask for that detail. Fated one, there are things in this world that aren't fit for the weak to know. Secondly, I didn't summon you into the world of the scroll for such talks. I'm here to give you an aiding push. Immediately, Bai Yan's forehead had cringed up into a knot after hearing his intentions. She was just wondering if the so-called event was related to the calamity that's being mentioned by the Celestial Palace. But to be told she's going to get help from a stranger's voice? Now that's something she never expected. Dragoni's father 3. How can you help me? I will give you the rest of my strength to help you advance into further heights. Afterwards I will return to my slumber. But my daughter? I will have to bother you to keep caring for her in the future with the power I give you. Boom. Just when Bai Yan wanted to open her mouth, a stinging sensation suddenly filled her head and made the woman flinch. Before she knew it, an outside force bordered on the line of invasiveness entered her veins and gathered into the meridian. My daughter hasn't woken up yet, so you can put her in this place for a while. No one can step foot here, she's safe. And the flying pig around you. Let him stay and look after my daughter too. Oh, and your son is quite good from the way I see it. If later on he can cope with the upcoming changes, then I will promise him my daughter. As icing on the cake, there's also a demon sealed within the ice lake here. If your son ever gets strong enough to reach the demi-divine lord level, have him come possession of it. For a moment, Bai Yan wanted to smack herself to see if this was real. Why does Dragoni's father sound like a market madam that's constantly yapping away without end, long-winded and endless jibbery-jabby? But why a demi-divine lord? Is there a reason for that? Because that place can only be reached if one is a demi-divine lord. In the voice's view, this was the only gift he could offer outside of the power he's going to give her. For saving Dragoni's life, and for allowing himself to meet his precious daughter again. You can rest assured, tightening up her hands in a firm manner. No matter what happens, I will not abandon Dragoni. She is like family to me. I won't abandon family. I believe you. How could he not believe Bai Yan? A human woman who would take her own essence blood out for a demon. That's something he's never heard of during his period alive. I also want to ask one last question. How do I get out of this place? The voice didn't hesitate and answered right away like he expected it. That's easy. You couldn't leave before because I wanted you to come here. Now that I've met you, the obstacle will naturally clear out on its own if you continue to walk down the mountain path. After saying this sentence, the strange presence simply disappeared. Bai Yan understood why, of course. Without energy to support his own soul, The voice was bound to fall back into slumber until it regenerates enough to function. The issue was when? Days, months, or years? Unaware of how long the time has passed in her current state, Bai Yan's body had started to tremble excessively due to the surging power from within. She never experienced such force before, which felt like it's going to make her flesh burst. Even so, the mind was the key here. As long as she's able to overcome the mental and spiritual test provided by being fast-tracked in her growth, the power would be hers to wield. Mother, Bai Xiachen asks again from the real world. What's wrong? Why are you ignoring me? And suddenly making a breakthrough? And 2 stages in a row, directly from a bottom divine to a high divine? As if to answer his call, Bai Yin suddenly moves again. Reaching out with her hand, she rubs the boy's head in a soothing motion. Don't worry, Xiachen. I only met Dragoni's father just now. This place is also made by him. Dragoni's father? The steam bun lights up in the face. But isn't she the daughter of the former dragon chief? How did you meet him? Well, it's a difficult thing to explain, but everyone has a past life, right? This father is one of Dragoni's past father, and not the one you know of. Dragoni's father for. Bai Xiachen makes a face like he's enlightened. Now I understand, mother. So, what did Dragoni's father say? Smirking mischievously, Bai Yin throws the bomb down like a sly fox. He said to betroth Dragoni to you. Emily Shang instantly started to cough like he's been hit in the stomach. How old are the kids? They're already talking about betrothal? And it's done by the parents' own mouth? Then, as if recalling something, the young lad slowly sneaked a peek to the winged piggy next to himself. He wanted to find if there's any change in the little fella's expression, but found none to his own relief. It seems I was overthinking the matter before. Molly only wants to protect the girl in the purest sense, and not anything else. Mother. The steam bun gets unhappy and buries his frowning face into the woman's belly. I don't want a wife. I only want to stay by your side. Also, Dragoni is my sister. If me and her marry, then wouldn't that be considered incest? Bai Yan's face visibly twitched over the last bit. You're not blood related, so it doesn't matter. You're still young, so you will understand this in the future. The boy merely tilted his head like a lost child. Will I really understand in the future? Then, mother, how are we supposed to get out of here? Looking up to face the downward slope, Bai Yin makes a meaningful face. We need to continue down the path. This place won't stop us anymore. However, Dragoni needs to stay here under her father's request, along with Molly to watch over her. Emily Shang was the first to react to that statement since it involved his companion, making a reluctant glance to his little buddy. Okay, you stay and protect Dragoni while she's asleep. Me and Yin Yin will leave together. Although the lad and his piggy companion did agree to split up before, but to actually have the pair go ahead with such an idea was still painful for the pair. Showing tears along his piggy face. Master, I will be sure to protect Dragoni so you can be assured. Regarding this arrangement, Bai Yin didn't have any objections. In her view, there must be a reason why the voice insisted on the piggy to stay behind. Mother, doesn't it hurt? Bai Xiachen carefully raises the woman's hand with a look of pain over the revealing bones. I will blow on it. Before you would always blow on my wound if I got hurt, so you will be fine too. That said, the boy promptly began to puff up his cheeks to give it a big huff of air like it would do something. Still hurt? Of course not, you silly, rubbing her son's head in a happy fashion. We will go back now. Your father and siblings are waiting for us. What needs to be done has been done on this account. Now all that leaves was to confront the enemies coming at them, and whatever fate holds for her and her husband, Bai Yin intends to meet it together. The sky above the demon city has already been shrouded in dark looming clouds. It's uncomfortably suffocating under the constant hammering roars of the thunder. Even so, a single figure remains standing with no fear in his eyes. Such a being exuded dominances and power. Keeper Ling. Suddenly, an excited voice came over from the rear and landed on the conceited keeper's side. Dragoni's father 5. What's going on? The grumpy keeper asks using a deep voice after seeing how excited the other Sid was. I have wonderful news, Keeper Ling. The demon realm actually has a princess that's only 2 years old. Back then the demon queen didn't just give birth to one, but a pair of twins. Boom! The messenger's words were like a beaming ray of sunshine for the keeper, causing him to choke for a proper response to describe his own ecstatic emotion. In contrast to the delight felt by the members of the celestial palace, Yun Ruo, she didn't feel so happy right now. She's downright distraught at the outcome regarding her own fate. Why? Why is there a princess in the demonic world, and that Winger would hide the fact from me? What am I supposed to do? If Keeper Ling really manages to kidnap the princess, then I will have to carry the burden of saving the world. That bastard, is he trying to kill me by lying? Hatred has long filled the woman's heart. Therefore the news only added to her vile nature. You are saved, Ruoshi, you are saved. Keeper Ling couldn't hold back and grabbed the woman's shoulder, oblivious to the fact that the other side was making a face uglier than seeing their own parents die. Are you happy? Now you will finally be able to cultivate again with the demon princess's blood. Shuddering some more, the deceitful witch didn't know what to say nor respond. She's merely standing there in a daze. Can I not? My body is just fine like it is. Deetsong didn't miss their conversation, of course. Immediately, the demon king's brow began to furrow up. In the end, Ling Yan's existence became known to these people after all, but I won't let anyone hurt my daughter. Demon King. Keeper Ling smirks like he's won already. Over the years your kind have sinned, but now you can finally redeem yourself somewhat by sacrificing your daughter to save the world. So, I forgive you. Boom. In light of that self-conceited and self-righteous sentence, the old grumpy man didn't hold back. Perhaps it's the fact he no longer had a use for Deetsong, but the power coming out of the sword just increased by several folds, meaning the battlefield had spiraled out of the Demon King's control. Back over in the city streets, Winger had just finished running out of the palace with the princess in arm when he sensed the terrifying power coming his way. Without a second of hesitation, he whisked his sleeve towards the sky to fend off the lightning strike that was striking down in their spot. Bang! Puking blood from the impact, the bird man went deathly pale as he gets forced back. Uncle Winger! Di Ling Yin burst into tears. Are you hurt? Dragoni's father 6. Winger shook his head and warmly brought the girl in his arms closer for protection. Princess, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to seek the king now. Di Ling Yan's eyes dimmed somewhat. She wanted to head to her father's side, but she also knows the act of dragging someone else into trouble was a wrong thing to do. Let me down, Uncle Winger. It's okay. You don't have to look down at me like that. I'm actually very tough, and can take care of myself. The milky voice and strong determination sent the bird man trembling inside, because he felt ashamed for being a coward. A full-grown adult couldn't even compare to a 2-year-old courage. What more does he need to say? Princess, I actually don't feel hurt at all from the lightning. It's no different from an itch. Here, I'll take you to the king. Even if that pain stung him deep into the bone, Winger won't allow the baby to go off on her own. It's his duty right now to protect her and his wish. Really? A puzzled expression came off of Di Ling Yin when looking up. I've seen mother take hits from a lightning. It hurts a lot. Don't worry, princess. That is not a thunderbolt, so it doesn't hurt. Would I lie to you? Look at my face. Does it look like someone that's hurt? Though palish in color, Winger's expression remains relaxed on the surface, and even showed a slight smile to emphasize his point. Okay, Uncle Winger, I believe you. But first let me down. I can walk on my own. No, princess. We have to go to the king faster, so let me carry you. He tries to persuade her by speaking softly, nodding over the suggestion since it's reasonable. Di Ling Yin didn't object. All right, we will go find father. I don't want anything to happen to him. Okay, let's go. With the nod given, Winger began to move with the girl firmly protected in his arms. He's making sure his entire body was acting as a shield when the lightning bolts come down again. Otherwise it would surely hit the princess, if he's not careful. Very soon, the bird man could see the tightly closed gate of the city after enduring several more strikes from above. He's spitting blood now from the corner of his mouth, but he's done and kept the charge in his arms safe. Uncle Winger, you tricked me, you're hurt. Let me down. I will go on my own to find father. Boom! Only a meter away from the exit, Winger finally collapsed under the last blow from the sky. Ah! Di Ling Yin cried out in fright. Uncle Winger, how are you? Don't die please, I know I'm wrong. I shouldn't have asked you to help me find father. Don't die. Seeming to recall something crucial, the girl suddenly picked up a dagger from the ground nearby and cut open her finger, thus allowing the blood to flow into Winger's wound. Tearful Ling Yan 1. Slightly quivering along the eyes, Winger slowly regains his consciousness after falling down only to be welcomed by the image of a crying girl after looking up. Princess, don't cry. I'm fine. Reaching up with his hand, the Birdman attempts to wipe away some of those tears. Then that's when he noticed the cut across the girl's finger. What did you do? Finally smiling after confirming the other side was fine, Di Ling Yin immediately got all happy again knowing she succeeded. Back when I was at the Sky Mountain, I accidentally cut myself when I tripped over a withered tree's root. My blood made the old tree grow again. So, I thought if I smeared some of my blood on your wound it might help heal you too, Uncle Winger. Like the baby girl says, her blood does have the magical property of healing anyone if applied, but only if the patient was still alive and breathing. A tight pain promptly gripped Winger's heart due to this news. He's fully aware of his own lowly status. If not for being saved by the demon realm, someone like him wouldn't even be worthy of being in the princess's presence, let alone demand the baby to offer up her blood. Such privilege and honor, he should never have received it nor deserve it after all he's done. And exactly then, another past memory suddenly surfaced within the Birdman's brain like a stroke of light. It's the time he spent in that endless darkness, and how the tender voice of a strange girl came into his life. Just like her mother, the princess is kind and beautiful. How could I have been so foolish and misled for all this time? That Yin Ruo, she could never do good with her vile nature. How could I have been so stupid? Princess, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Guilt, pain, regret, countless emotions blended into one indescribable emotion that continued to rip away at the man's soul. Why are you apologizing, Uncle Winger? Blinking her big baby eyes, Di Ling Yin didn't understand why the other side would suddenly say that. Closing his eyes in pain, the man decides to come clean. In the past, your mother gave me the only hope in life during my darkest moment. I promised to go find her if she couldn't come find me afterwards. However, by the time I did, she was already gone. Even worse, I misrecognized your mother's enemy as her, and did some very terrible things during that period. I almost did it again, and was supposed to kill you and your brother. He wanted to speak the truth and spill everything how his heinous past. And now that he said it, it both removed a heavy burden from his shoulder and frightened him. The former being the guilt, the latter of not being able to achieve forgiveness. I won't blame you, Uncle Winger. Mother said it before, a good child is one that knows when he is wrong. So mother won't blame you either. Awash with purity due to that clean voice, Winger never felt so refreshed in his entire life. But your mother, she doesn't seem to remember me anymore. If she had remembered me, she would have gone to find me long ago probably. Isn't that easy? If mother doesn't remember you, Uncle Winger, then we can remind her. Tilting her little head, Di Ling Yan's answer to the problem sounded so simple yet so obvious. But Uncle Winger, have your body recovered yet? Tearful Ling Yan too, feeling much better now after his brief recovery, Winger stands up and readies himself. I'm ready, princess. We can continue to look for the king. Outside the gates of the city, all was in ruins due to the massive damage to the landscape. Even so, Deetsong remains firm against the constant hammering of that destructive thunder and hurricane-level winds. Against this level of devastation, not even Keeper Ling could keep his old heart at ease. There's shock and there's fear plastered all over his face right now because he expected the battle to be over by now. Has this Demon King grown to such an extent? If it was anyone else from the Celestial Palace taking on those bolts, they would have fallen long ago. Pity. If only we had destroyed him properly back then when we had the chance. Then I never would have needed to waste the precious sword's power on him today. I can't let this go on. If this Demon King continues to grow at the rate he's doing now, Then it would just be a matter of time before he overturns the entire celestial realm. Gritting his teeth at the thought, Keeper Ling once again reaches out to grab at the ancient sword's handle. However, instead of wielding the blade like some would expect, the artifact seems to have a mind of its own, and came alive by sucking the old fella's energy dry like it's a black hole. In contrast to the withering look of the user, the lightning above in the sky only grew in kind, giving off a sensation that it's tearing apart the world due to the new influx of fuel. This was a terrible turn of event for Ditsong, of course. He's been drained already after being repeatedly bombarded by the destructive bolts of electric might. And now that body of his had started to show signs of depletion, meaning it's a matter of time before he falls if nothing was done. Naturally, the king of all demons couldn't allow that under any circumstances. There are his subjects behind himself that needs protecting, but more importantly, there's his children that's still hiding in the palace. No matter what happens, the man and father won't and couldn't allow himself to fall. Suddenly, the blurry image of Bai Yan's face seems to materialize within Ditsong's view in this dire time. It's just that instead of the iconic red dress that she's always worn, the dazzling and gorgeous woman had on a pearly white garb, giving him a smile so wonderful that it's captivating. Exactly like 1,000 years ago where his heart was swept away with one simple look. Demon King Ditsong, 1,000 years ago you would never have allowed yourself to be placed in this predicament. Aren't you regretting it? Regretting all your past deeds? If not for your brash act of barging into the celestial palace and saving that wretched woman, none of this would be happening today. Seeing the other side's about to give, Keeper Ling decides to put the final nail in the coffin by spewing out the snarky remarks. Make no mistake though, this arrogant and grumpy keeper may have the upper hand right now, but even he knows that without this ancient artifact in his possession, he would never be able to overcome the other side. Narrowing his eyes into a glare, Ditsong stares down menacingly at the annoying thorn that wouldn't shut up. You emotionless old fossils could never understand what it means to love a person. That's why you can say such idiotic things to me. Yin Yin is my world. Without her, this world means nothing. I will give up my body and soul if it means saving her. 1,000 years ago I did so, and 1,000 years later, that is today I will do the same if needed. Ditsong may not be able to remember everything from the past, but he more or less remembers the crucial bits of why he became so weak. Tearful Ling Yan 3. The jealousy inside Yunruo, she was quickly making her go crazy right now. It's true she loves Chewy God from the hearts down, but seeing how Bai Yin could get such deep love from someone else still drove her to the edge. Why? Why is the two most beautiful and handsome men in this world loving her like so while I get nothing? Why? Keeper Ling naturally didn't notice the vicious jealousy surging within the woman's eye when he snarled sarcastically. Even in death, you won't regret it? Ditsong made a very simple reply to get his message across, and that was to openly laugh. I still haven't loved my wife enough. Why would I die? In this world, no one can kill me except Yin Yan. In this man's view, only his wife could take his life, no other person out there could. You! The grumpy keeper gawked, not able to comprehend the logic behind the other side's speech. No matter though, the Demon King didn't need others to understand his thinking. He only needs them to understand by experiencing his will. Without ado, an enormous aura suddenly blows up around Ditsong's body and turned the sky around in his favor. Losing his breath at this incredible surge of power, Keeper Ling almost cowered there. How can he do that? The power from the sword should be enough to destroy him, so why is he able to put up such a strong front? I never felt such pressure even back in the day during his prime. Suddenly, a clicking sound came from below his gaze and caused an ominous sensation to creep up his spine. The old fella didn't want to look down, of course, knowing full well what it indicated. However, he also knew he had to, since the concentrated lightning bolts above the sky had started to act erratically like lost flies in a swarm. And sure enough, his entire body went stone cold once he confirmed it with his own eyes. From the sword that was firmly planted into the ground, there's a small tiny line of a crack starting to form along the blade's surface. This small defect may be small right now, but it's definitely a crack, a sure sign that the sword was starting to crack under duress. Keeper Ling. Yin Ruoshi nervously calls out from the rear. The old witch knows full well if they lose this battle then the demons here would skin her alive if they could. That was why she's so scared at the moment. Back over in the sky, Deetsong could see what's happening with the sword. He's smirking now, mainly because that's exactly what he wanted. Furthermore, the proud demon king could already sense the familiar aura of someone he knew drawing in from afar. Otherwise he would never take such a huge risk in what he just did. It's a double-edged sword. Failure means the death of him, but success meant the destruction of the main obstacle. Unfortunately, things wouldn't always pan out the way one deems it to be. Right when the Demon King wanted to finish the job by mustering up the last of his strength, a crying voice suddenly calls out to him from the city gate. "Father!" It's a tender and childish note belonging to a baby girl. Why is she here? Deetsong wanted to respond to his daughter's cry, but in order to do the damage he did to the ancient sword, he had already exhausted most of his powers. Merely speaking out was an arduous task in of itself. Tearful Ling Yan 4. By the time Ling Yan managed to make it out into the main battle site, the first scene she saw was her old man falling down from the sky and crashing to the ground. "Papa!" Immediately, the baby girl burst into tears and cried out, pushing herself to toddle unsteadily to the man's side. She didn't think twice, doing the only thing she thought she could do, and that was to cut her own finger again to let the blood drop. "Drink Papa blood, please hurry and drink some." Ling Yan. Deetsong's faint voice sounded hoarse when speaking, but it paled in comparison to the tense pain he felt when seeing his own daughter's action. He would never ask this from the girl, nor want her to bleed for him. "It's okay, Ling Yan. I don't." Unfortunately for the Demon King, his plea only made the baby grow more desperate, which in kind made Ling Yan squeeze her finger even harder to push out more blood. Nevertheless, the added effect of the magical blood did help soothe the poor man's health somewhat. It's not very effective, but it did give a flicker of power back into the Demon King, just enough for him to stop panting like he's about to die at any moment. Ling Yan didn't know what's happening, of course. All she knew was that her blood didn't have the usual effect of instantly healing the patient. Turning to the bird man behind herself. "Uncle Winger, what is happening? Why is my blood not working? My blood is usually more useful than Mother's alchemic pills. Why is it not working on Father?" Shaking head in a helpless manner over the girl's tearful face. "Princess, the king. He's like this not because of an injury, but because he expended too much power." Regarding the consequences of overextending one's power limit, Winger didn't want to say it, because it would only hurt the demon baby even more. Even so, Ling Yan's instinct told herself it couldn't be good, and that was enough. Deetsong also knew the consequences of his own actions, and what it meant if there's no help from an outside source. But as a father, he's more worried about calming his precious daughter's mood than his own health. Reaching up to wipe some of those tears, the Demon King's complexion continued to grow worse. "Why?" Grabbing her old man's hand in the process, Ling Yan cries upward towards the sky like she's speaking to the heavens itself. "What wrong did I do? Why do these people want to hurt me?" Her helpless voice only added to the pathetic nature of such a plea, because everyone here understood there's no such thing as fairness in this world. In a timely yet unwelcomed moment, Keeper Ling Yan's pompous and arrogant voice cuts in. "Ha ha ha. Demon King Deetsong exhausted himself in order to ruin my sword, and now his daughter came running out on her own volition. Fate really is on my side." That said, the old grumpy elder continues to grin, but had locked onto the baby girl's presence. "Little girl, don't worry. I will give you a painless death when I take your life." Ling Yan didn't care what others had to say though. All she did was cast her eyes downward at her own man like she's in her own little world. Nevertheless, the muttering response she said told everyone she's well aware of the situation. "My life is given to me by Mother. I may be small and don't understand much about this world, but I know enough that aside from my mother, no one else can demand me to die." She may be childish and young, but the girl's words were more than enough to make Keeper Ling grind his teeth in hated anger. Why are all of Bai Yan's children like this? So lacking in virtue and teaching? Just like her mother, this demon princess is so selfish and arrogant. She doesn't give one care about the world. The sneaky Di Lingyan won. Ha ha ha. Though he's laughing, Keeper Ling's tone nevertheless gave off a creepy chill that's unfitting to his style. Little girl, your parents have done too many evil things in their life. And now we are merely trying to help you because only you can gain redemption for your parents. The old fella knows full well Song didn't have the strength to stop himself anymore. But he's a member of the Celestial Palace, an institution of the highest moral standard. Even if he takes a life, he wants to make sure the other side understand why they are dying. It's his ethical standard. Showing an irritated face. My father and mother have done nothing bad. It's you people who won't let them go and kept pestering them. She won't allow others to badmouth her parents. That's the demon princess's standard. Continuing to smirk in a sly fashion. It's not up to you to decide if they've done bad or not. It's me who decides it. Of course, if you are willing to contribute your blood and save the lady next to me, I will naturally forgive your parents for all their past mistakes. Treating Yun Ruoxi with the fox blood wasn't an overnight feat. It's a long-term project that requires constant showering. Meaning until the baby girl across from himself bleeds the last drop of blood, it won't be enough for him. Furthermore, this grumpy keeper already seen the healing function of the fox girl's blood, just now when used on the demon king, thus reaffirming his belief of the treatment's viability. So you refuse to let me go because of my blood? If that's the case, then why didn't you say so? Di Lingyan's childish and surprised-sounding voice causes Winger to be puzzled from the back. On the way here, he's told the princess on what these crooks from the Celestial Palace wanted, so it didn't make sense on why she's being so surprised like she didn't know. Obviously it's an act, but why? I'll just give you my blood. I hate to have you people constantly hounding me because of that reasoning. Despite the pure and innocent words of the baby princess, Di Lingyan's complexion was as white as it would come for someone that's about to have her blood drained. Princess! Winger's heart began to pick up as he pulled the princess behind himself in a protective manner. Believe in me, Your Highness. I can protect you and the demon realm. Last time, he only managed to get away with only being injured because he retracted his own aura right away, thus sustaining a severe but not life-threatening injury. However, if he were to take this battle today and release his full might to fight, then it's without a doubt those hunting him would let loose the full might of that lightning. By then, it's likely he won't survive the ordeal. Slowly closing his eyes, Winger's expression gradually becomes firm, and by the time he opened them again, there's determination and strength. For the sake of Her Royal Highness, for the Queen and the demon realm. So what if those people find out? These two are the ones I most want to protect. Even she has forgotten me, I won't regret it. Uncle Winger. It's at this moment when the bird man's about to release his all and step into the realm of no return. Di Lingyan's crisp, clear voice cuts in and interrupts the act. Believe in me, Uncle Winger. I am a princess of the demon realm. Sacrificing myself for the sake of my home is expected and only right. There's no brightness in the girl's smile anymore. Only the sternness of someone ready to meet their end, when she pulled out a random bowl from somewhere. It's what she intends to use to hold her blood, that's dripping from the finger right now. The sneaky Di Lingyan too. Perhaps it's intentional, or the girl simply cut herself a bit too deep back inside the city. But her finger wound didn't need further splitting when trying to drip the blood into the half-filled bowl that she tossed over. Shocked and taken aback at the primitive method, Keeper Ling frantically caught it midair before the blood could spill. Even so, the rude act couldn't hinder the elation that's showing across the old face. Hurry, Roshi, come take this blood. He personally watched the baby girl bleed herself there. That's why the old fella didn't suspect a thing on why it went so smoothly. Furthermore, these keepers from the Celestial Palace are all individuals who are not prone to the scheming and conspiracies of the human world. Hence the reason why they are so easily deceived, especially by the old witch who's been having their heads wrapped around her fingers. Yun Ruoxi didn't show the same kind of elation like the other side though. She's downright panicking. Keeper Ling, I don't think it's a good idea. Having me drink blood, I just can't. If my body really recovered, wouldn't that mean I would have to shoulder the burden of protecting the world? No, no, no. What does these people take me for? Why should I sacrifice myself for someone else? You are the only hope of the celestial palace, Ruashi, the elder sighs with a frown showing across his old face. And only by having you recover will we never fall. Now we are only asking you to drink this blood. Why are you refusing? The old witch's face only grew paler, as she's being forced into a corner. There's simply no excuse she could use to refuse without her lies unraveling. Accepting her fate, Yun Ruashi decisively takes over the bowl and chugged the reddish liquid. However, instead of showing a look of healthiness and strength afterwards, the woman completely dropped the bowl onto the ground and shattered it. She's bleakly white while trembling, which only got worse as she puked blood like someone being injected with a vicious poison. Ruashi, screaming out in agony over this picture, Keeper Ling rushes over to catch the following woman, turning to confront the baby girl. You wench, how dare you scheme against Ruashi? Making an obvious skittish face at the huge holler, Di Ling Yen appears scared on the surface. I don't know what's going on, but I do know that if a bad person does bad things, they will be poisoned if they take my blood. So, she must be a vicious and bad person as well. That's what you get for hurting my parents and wanting my blood. Now let's see what you will do. Keeper Ling's body started to shake all over due to how livid he was inside. He's green in the face and wanted to strangle the young baby. Knowing full well she's infuriated the enemy, Di Ling Yen starts to move on to her next phase of the plan. Uncle Winger, when a person dies, will their blood solidify? Yes. Winger's mouth twitched because he now understood why the princess did what she did. She poisoned Ruashi by poisoning herself first. The sneaky Di Ling Yen 3. Oh yes, they want my blood and they want to kill me while doing so, didn't they? Oh well, it looks like they will never be able to use my blood then. Di Ling Yen speaks like she's just come to the realization. You. Keeper Ling's face went a shade of green as he pointed that finger in an accusatory manner. Yes, they are going to kill the girl eventually, but not right now. See? Giggling in her voice. I said it already. You are not qualified to kill me. Her smile no longer carried any of the childish delight she had before. Only a chill that's distant and cold. Winger may have known the princess for a short period only, but the Birdman never expected to see such a strong side from the baby girl. It's completely out of character and beyond her age. Sinking into a dark glare, Keeper Ling now understood what the baby was trying to do. Humph! You think we can't take you back with us first, and then slowly deal with you? As long as she arrives at the Celestial Palace, then her fate would be sealed. That's a fact and a simple task to achieve right now. Unfazed and still smiling with that frosty look. You can. However, if you force me, then I won't ever give you the cure to the granny's poison over there. Yun Ruashi's brain literally exploded right in that moment. Not because of the poison though, nay, but because she's been called an old granny. A lethal sore spot for any woman of age. This wench, she actually dared to call me a granny? I knew it. She's just as annoying as that Bai Xiaochen. As expected of Bai Yan's children, they're all ill-mannered brats. She wanted to say something to rebuttal that claim, but the clenching pain from the abdomen sent her crouching down like a squirming worm. You admit you added poison? Keeper Ling also explodes upon seeing the pained look of the old witch. I'm too negligent, thinking a child will not have too many vile thoughts. But this is Bai Yan's child. I should have known. Di Ling Yen didn't pay too much attention to the elder's interrogating voice though. Instead she continues to speak with the Birdman. A huge disrespect for any keeper. Uncle Winger, can you take my father back to rest? His injury is very serious. Dropping her head, the baby girl appears to be frustrated due to her own powerless self. Naturally Winger would be frowning over the request. If he leaves, then what about the princess herself? Thankfully the dilemma didn't last long, because First Elder had caught up by now and presented himself as the answer. Princess, you really came to this place. What if something happens to you? Her Highness the Queen will skin us alive if she finds out. Quivering in his lips, First Elder said the first thing that came to his mind before noticing Song lying there in a pit. This, the king. Tearing up in the face now, Ling Yin promptly answered. First Elder, my father is hurt. Can you take him back to rest? I'll be all right. First Elder didn't move though. Instead he signals the old goat, who also came with him to lift their liege out of the hole, before turning to the one responsible. Keeper Ling, you people from the Celestial Palace all claim to be morally benevolent, yet you're hurting a child? Don't you think it goes against what you claim to stand for? Making a mocking laugh, Keeper Ling obviously felt otherwise based on that sarcastic tone. Child? If she is a child, then how could she plot a murder? You think a child can do such a vicious and cruel thing? How can you say that about me? You want to eat me and I'm supposed to be grateful? Ling Yan's eyes got all dark and serious in her counter. Mother taught me I cannot hurt others without reason, nor allow others to hurt me. And if they do, we must return the favor at twice the level. The sneaky Ling Yan 4. I like to ask, is it me poisoning her more serious, or her eating a child more serious? Cocking her chin high, Ling Yin shoots back with strength in her voice. This time, even Keeper Ling was speechless, because he had no rebuttal against that logic. Although he mouthed off about the good of this world and such, but the demon princess was still just a child. That's a fact, and he couldn't deny it. Even so, she can't poison Ruashi. The old grumpy keeper continues to preach his side's logic, like a stubborn old fool. The fault lies with the Celestial Palace. Ruashi did no wrong. We were the ones who forced into it, isn't that right? Princess, did you use poison like he claims? First Elder asks with a hint of confusion in his voice, due to not making head or tails of the whole story. This time, Ling Yin didn't deny the case and confirmed it with a nod. Yes, I secretly took a poison while they weren't paying attention. Then she drank my blood, so it's natural that she got poisoned too. The elder's face promptly turned a ghostly white. What poison did you eat? How could you take such a risk, Your Highness? What if something happens? How are we supposed to tell your mother, the queen? Don't worry, First Elder. I have an antidote. Without hesitation or delay, the baby girl quickly took out a bottle containing said pill and tossed it into her mouth. Keeper Ling wanted to rob the item as his first instinct, of course, but it's too late by the time he wanted to move. Showing an irate expression as he spoke. Do you have more? Hurry and hand it over if you do. In the Celestial Palace, the strongest alchemist would be Healer Yu. However, the guy hates Ruashi to death right now. There's no way he would offer a cure even if they asked. No, I don't anymore, said the baby with a slight giggle. Mother only gave me one and I've eaten it. By the way, this antidote will only work after a month's wait. During this period, my blood will always carry the poison, so you people can forget about touching me. Unlike her older brother, Ling Yin only had 2 years to her life, meaning she's not immune to all sorts of poisons out there. At most, she's only slightly resistant to the effects. A visible tremor shook Keeper Ling's body over that answer. He couldn't accept the fact that someone like he would be cheated by a simple child. That's equivalent to someone slapping him and making him lose face. Ho ho, I don't believe there is no antidote on you. Hand it over this instant, and I'll forgive you for what you've done. It's then, a snickering sneer cuts in from above and catches everyone's attention. Forgive? On what basis do you have to say that word after all you've done? Standing in the open sky was a woman donning a dress purer and whiter than a drifting snowflake, surreal and mesmerizing. However, the indifferent glare in those eyes seems more threatening than a ferocious beast ready to pounce at her prey. Ling Yin was the first to react to the new entry, especially when she recognized that incredibly similar face to her own mother's. Grandmother, you are back. Bai Ning initially fell into a pause over the way she was addressed, but those eyes soon turned to eagerness as she stared downwards at that cute cuddly face that's also staring upwards. The sneaky Ling Yin 5. For a while Bai Ning forgot where she was and kept staring down at the joyous image of the child. This girl, 2 years old, and call me grandmother? So she's Yenner's daughter? Are you Yenner's child? Calming the ferocious glint in her eye, The woman's gaze now carried calm like the shining sun when warming the planet. Grandmother, my name is Di Lingyan, it's Big Brother who named me. Did you know Mother kept talking about you while you weren't around? The little peachy girl's voice was very good to the ear, assuring others her beauty would surely rival her own mother's one day. Against such a lovely child, there's no way Bai Ning's heart wouldn't be turned. Oh, Bai Yin should be just as cute and cuddly as this child if she was still a baby. It's because of me that she had to suffer so much during those years. Thank goodness she had a good brother to care for her during that period. Otherwise I won't know what else to do. Ling Yin is so good. Descending from the sky after saying that, Bai Ning firmly pulls the child into her arms and gave the baby a big huge hug. Then that's when she noticed the blood dripping down the girl's hand. What's this? Who hurt you, my dear? The anger surging within the woman's body couldn't be hidden at the sight of blood. There's a thin layer of red oozing out of the lady's figure, which only grew in kind once she caught a glimpse of the guilty individuals in the back. These people from the Celestial Palace want to use her blood to heal that Yin Ruoxi. Winger's tone and attitude was very distant and cold, totally different from the way he spoke about the old, which prior to the big exposure. Celestial Palace, it's the Celestial Palace again. Bai Ning grinds her teeth when speaking. You people have done nothing but evil. Sooner or later, the world will not tolerate your crimes. Keeper Ling also flew into a rage at the accusatory looks. Bai Ning, I was just looking for you. To think you would come show yourself of your own accord. You are right on one thing though in what you said. The heavens will one day judge the demons, because this world doesn't have a place for such vile creatures. They've done nothing but evil. As if you got the right to speak ill of others. Bai Ning doesn't back down and fights back with her own sharp words. You think the amount of people the Celestial Palace have hurt is little? There are hordes of innocent individuals out there who would love to see your head roll. Today, I, Bai Ning, will get justice for those poor helpless individuals who couldn't save themselves from your evil hands. Ha ha ha. Unfazed over the threat, the old elder only found the idea hilarious. Bai Ning, you seem to forget something. Who is the one that hid themselves from us for all these years? And who is the one that attacked the Celestial Palace while us keepers were not present? So explain to me, what can you do now that I'm here? Bai Ning grinned. Then you seem to forget something as well. There's an old saying of things are not what it used to be. It's been so many years already. She's no longer the same Bai Ning, who kept living in hiding like in the past. For the sake of her own daughter, for the sake of her own grandchildren. She even kept herself from returning to her own husband. It's all for the sake of making more breakthroughs, in order to challenge the order of this world. What she didn't expect though was how quickly these bastards took aim at her family. A 2-year-old, they wouldn't even let a baby go. Self-humiliation 1. Humph. Huffing a grunt. Keeper Ling's eyes contained a deep level of mockery at the threat. He didn't believe the idea for 1 second. Bai Ning, you are too conceited. Even the Demon King lost against me. What can you do with your measly strength? That said, a huge amount of pressuring wave came sweeping out of the senior's body, causing the weak to cower to their knees under this overwhelming strength. Right now, aside from Bai Ning, Winger and Di Lingyan, everyone else have been affected to some extent. This includes First Elder, who also had a change in color due to the pressure, because he's obviously not of the caliber. Bai Ning naturally knows why the other side could act so arrogant. Darkening in her gaze, she remains cautious but still smirked anyway. Keeper Ling. In my life there aren't many whom I care for. My daughter is among one of them whom I do. In the past, I only confronted the Celestial Palace because I couldn't turn a blind eye to the cruel and evil deeds you bunch did. But this time, if my daughter wants to overturn the Celestial Palace, then I will accompany her. Boom. A storm suddenly explodes out of the woman's body as well, causing the very earth under her feet to tremble under that might, and countered the pressure from the other side. In comparison to the grumpy keeper's strength, it's no weaker nor stronger. That's Bai Ning's reliance. Not by turning to others for help, but by using her own strength to fend off the enemy. Keeper Ling's face completely changed at this change of event. No one knows better than this old guy here about how hard it was to break through to a demi-divine lord. Unlike the previous levels, once one reaches the high divine stage, it's no longer about stuffing the cultivator with power anymore. That won't work. The key to having another breakthrough at their level would be enlightenment plus power. If either aspect was lacking, the feat would be null when attempted. For Keeper Ling, his own achievement was 100 years after he reached a bottleneck at the high divine. If not for a fated encounter he experienced at some point in his life, he would be like all the rest and be stuck. And now Bai Ning got to the same level as him in a measly 2 years, while he spent 100 years? That's absolutely shocking. The demon realm already has a deed song. I can't allow them to have another Bai Ning to add to their roster. Today this woman must die. Not going to waste any more words. He knew what must be done, and punched the air to release a preemptive attack. The recoiling force from the blast roared out, breaking the space and shooting over like an invisible rocket. Bai Ning had no trouble seeing through this, since she's been on alert the entire time. In a flash of her body, she quickly dodges the initial punch, and drew her long sword to recounter with an arcing wind blade of her own. However, the efforts were apparently futile because a barrier immediately materializes and blocked the swipe before it could even make contact. Snickering in the face, Bai Ning, as a fellow demi-divine lord, you are not my opponent since you've only recently reached this level. My experience and ability to control my energy is above yours. Just like the requirement in reaching this stage, the differentiating factor also changes for people at their level. It's no longer about having more brute strength. It's about being able to wield said power that's residing inside their core. In this case, Keeper Ling has had many more years over Bai Ning in grasping all of his abilities and what he could use or not use. That means he's more efficient and more precise in his attacks, leaving the old keeper able to last longer and eventually come out on top of the woman as the fight drags out. This was also the reason why he's considered the strongest keeper of this current era. He's able to control the output of his powers much better than everyone else. Of course, if all of the keepers from the Celestial Palace joined hands to fight Ling, then he wouldn't stand a chance. But what's the odd of that happening? Slim if next to impossible. Self-humiliation too. Bai Ning's eyes squinted in as she gently exhaled like she's come to a decision. First Elder, you take Ling Yin away first. I'm afraid I might hurt her by mistake if she stays here. The old senior didn't have time to comply though, because Winger had already stepped forward to take possession of Ling Yin first. There's an understanding between the grandmother and the bird man once their eyes met, which needed no further words to express. Returning her gaze to arrogant keeper, Bai Ning reforms her indifferent and cold gaze. There are indeed gaps between various demi-divine lords, but to me, those differences are non-existent and have nothing to do with me. Also, I said it already, I am no longer the same person as I was before. I won't be running from anyone. The momentum around the woman promptly grew more violent. Wave after wave, the aura around her body kept sweeping across the air, until everyone nearby could feel it. It's intense and suffocating. The look across Keeper Ling's face could no longer remain calm once he assessed the woman with his own eyes. Without another thought, this old man did the first instinct that came to mind and pushed the old witch away. Ruashi, watch out! Yin Ruashi wasn't ready for this sudden shove at all. Similar to an arrow, she flew out in a straight line like an arrow before crash landing 20-odd meters away. Coupling this impact with her already frail body, due to the poison circulating in her veins, she immediately threw up blood again. However, the condition couldn't stop the fear from pulling this old witch up from the ground. She was scared out of her mind, which manifested into a physical run for the other way, without a single glance back. As for Keeper Ling in the background, ho-ho, as if this selfish woman would care about other people's well-being? She's only using these keepers to her own benefit. Moreover, it's the other side's own choice in risking their life for herself. She has nothing to do with the matter. Winger caught onto what the old witch thought, of course. He's the one who knows Ruashi the best here. However, right as the bird man's about to give chase, a small little hand reached upwards and held him back. She'll be back. Di Ling Yin says, her lips smiling like a mischievous fox that she was. She's poisoned the woman already. Aside from the baby's mother, there's unlikely anyone else who knows the recipe to the antidote. Also, the most important matter at hand was helping her grandmother. For some unknown reason, the baby girl wants to keep Winger around as an assurance. That's her instinct working, and not anything logical. Bai Ning finally read through what the old keeper wanted to do as well. Narrowing her eyes in, you want to protect her? But look at that woman. Which part of her behavior is showing she cares about yours? A slight flush similar to an embarrassed face appeared in the old fella's face, because he could also see the old witch fleeing behavior. Ruah, she is not afraid to die. She's only afraid she cannot complete her mission of protecting this world. For the sake of all life, she must do so. Bai Ning's smile only got deeper and more mocking, like she's just heard some funny joke. Likewise, First Elder and the other demons nearby were also stunned beyond belief. They've seen cowards before and shameless individuals as well, but this sort of blind ignorance was at a different level. No matter though, whatever the case, it was between the Celestial Palace and that deceitful old witch. Bai Ning didn't care. Brandishing her longsword, she unleashes her murderous power for the other side. Keeper Ling got white in the face, then as he attempts to defend himself. It's now he finally understood he's been underestimating the woman and hasn't kept his guard up. Gritting his teeth, the old senior swings his sword to meet the attack head-on. Boom! Following a loud explosion due to two opposing forces, the wind blows everything away in the near vicinity. Self-humiliation 3. The whole sky carried the scent of gunpowder, smoking intense as the dust cloud created by the explosion covered the air. This eerie mood continued right up to the point when the powdery substances cleared up. But what it showed was something most wouldn't have expected. Standing across from the proud woman was none other than Keeper Ling. But unlike before where he's arrogant and conceited, he's a ragged mess with his clothes mostly torn and ripped in all corners. There's blood slowly spreading out from the corner of his mouth, and a look of horror along that old face. How can it be? She couldn't have made the breakthrough all that long ago. How can she wield so much power in one attack? Of course, the idea of Bai Ning forcibly enhancing her own strength through underhanded means did occur as well. But considering Keeper Ling's experience and awareness, the old fellow was confident he would be able to pick up the unstable factor of someone going down that route. In other words, the power shown was the real deal in his view. Keeper Ling, do you now believe I'm no longer the same person as I was back then? Smiling in the face, Bai Ning's aura continued to grow as she spoke. Not only can I deal with you now, I do it with ease. As for the Celestial Palace, just wait. I will go settle the debt sooner or later. The old keeper's heart trembled at the threat, causing his hands to tighten into a ball. Now you can scram. By the way, go back and tell your peers to tidy themselves up for me. I, Bai Ning, will personally settle the score with each and every one of them. The woman's voice may be mild and indifferent, but it's strong and powerful to the ear like a drumroll to the other side. That's all Keeper Ling needed to hear though. He didn't argue, nor did he leave a sinister remark before leaving. He merely turned and left in silence. The old man's ashamed of himself for fearing for his own life despite all the moral values he kept spouting. Madam, Winger mutters from the side. Why are we letting him go? The question was good, a reasonable one at that. However, it was First Elder who spoke up to answer it instead of the woman herself. Madam Bai Ning, if I'm not mistaken, you must have taken a special drug to forcibly enhance your powers, didn't you? And that drug, it's only viable for one attack. Is that why you let him leave? That's to say, the raging storm of an attack Bai Ning did just now was indeed done at the help of outside materials. Just that it's very special and unique to the point where Keeper Ling didn't realize it due to his stunned mindset. If the old grumpy keeper had insisted and had a stronger spirit to fight, he would have immediately exposed the deception. Yes, First Elder, I did take a special Dan pill for that attack I used. I'm like that Keeper Ling, both at the middle stage of the demi-divine lord level. He can't break through my defense, nor hurt the people behind me if I insist on blocking him. Naturally, she wouldn't have done this if she could kill in one blow, but that's simply too hard. Also, I took into consideration of the current fighting force we have. My daughter is not around, and my son-in-law is wounded, as you can see. In that case, I feared my prolonged battle with Keeper Ling would draw out the other keepers in the Celestial Palace. By then the tide would change, and we would be on the defensive again, and likely unable to cope with the other side's reinforcement. Then smirking mischievously like she's a fox as well, Bai Ning clearly felt proud at what she's achieved. So, I took advantage of his mindset and offered him a retreat. I knew he would be shocked by my incredible growth and would waver. It's a gamble and it worked. I understand now, grandmother. Di Ling Yan starts giggling like a little child. Grandmother is so smart, scaring that scary old man away. Ling Yan is so clever. Bai Ning also starts to chuckle at the sight, and went ahead to pinch her grandchild's nose as a tease. Proudly cocking her head high, the praise was definitely working on the princess. That is, of course, I am mother's daughter, so of course I'm clever. In the mind of this little pipsqueak, Bai Yen was the smartest human being out there. As the genetic heir of said being, she's bound to be smart as well. Bai Ning kept smiling, but it didn't stop her from sighing deeply at the mention of her own missing daughter. But my plan won't last for too long. Those keepers from the Celestial Palace are going to come back sooner or later. It will only delay the inevitable battle. So, we need to first wake my son-in-law up and help recover. Then the issue won't be an issue anymore. Self-humiliation 4. All in all, what Bai Ning did just now was all no more than a front, a fake but well-thought-out front that was also quite risky. But then again, she didn't have a choice considering all she had to work with. So what if she beat Keeper Ling? Surely the Celestial Palace would bring in the other keepers afterwards. What then? Obviously nothing. One person of her caliber wouldn't be able to contend with that many. She's proud and courageous, not foolish and blind. Of course, if the worst-case scenario occurred, and Keeper Ling stuck around, then obviously the woman here would fight to the end. Fortunately it didn't, and things worked out fine. There's no person in this world who wasn't afraid of death. It's just a matter of are they prepared to meet their end for their goal. After leaving the Demon City, Keeper Ling soon caught up to the old witch, who continued to flee at her fastest speed. And like usual, her lies and deception easily fooled the old man, claiming she only escaped for the sake of saving the world. Just like that, the pair returned to the Celestial Palace without further incident. Keeper Ling, what is going on? Why are you and Ruashi in such a horrid state? Some of the keepers who saw their return hurried over to ask for their condition, especially Keeper Zun, who showed the greatest worry, due to his kind nature. They all believed Yun Ruashi to be the savior of this world. So many were quite unhappy that Ling would allow the girl to suffer such injury. What if she dies before the calamity strikes? What then? Ignoring the blaming looks coming his way, Keeper Ling got straight to the point. Deet Song has a daughter. That wretched demon wench schemed against Ruashi and poisoned her. There was a long pause after the news, followed by a burst of ecstasy in the hearts of these old keepers. Apparently the joy had overshadowed the other part about the poison. There's a princess in the demon realm. Then does that mean Ruashi can be saved? Huffing a grunt at the question. If you can pull a win over that Bai Ning, then go ahead. She's at the Demon City right now. Although Deet Song the Demon King is injured after his fight with me, it's not enough to cripple him. If we go now, it will only result in our death. Bai Ning? What does this have to do with Bai Ning? Wait, does that mean he's hurt and in this ragged state because of Bai Ning? Many of them thought, gazing up at down at their peer's horrid state. Are you sure? How can that woman be a threat? Keeper Yellow asks with a skeptical tone. He's the one most against Ling, and still held a grudge for the previous punch he took. Gloomy in the face, Keeper Ling obviously recognized the skeptic looks coming his way. Do you not see my appearance? This is what Bai Ning did to me, and guess what? Do you know how many hits she needed to hurt me? Just one. She hurt me to this level with one blow. If I hadn't run fast enough, my life would have been left there today. If one never experienced it firsthand, then of course they couldn't relate. But he did. That's why he's so affirmative that Bai Ning has changed drastically compared to 2 years ago. When everyone heard his outcry, they promptly got all quiet. It's eerie and uncomfortable. One blow to defeat Ling? Can they really manage if they attack the demon city now? This Bai Ning. When did she get so strong? Enough everyone. Let's further discuss on how to deal with the demon realm. But first I need to go plead with Healer Yu. We need to find an antidote to save Ruashi. Keeper Zun's gaze got all gloomy at the prospect. Let's hope he will help. After saying this, the kindest of the keepers hurried away from the spot and headed for the back mountain where said person would be. However, due to the deep hatred Healer Yu has of the old, which right now due to a misunderstanding, there's no way he would help. And word travels fast around these parts, especially in the Celestial Palace. When known, the old alchemist immediately hightailed it out of there with Yu Shirshir and caused Keeper Zun to hit a miss. Self-humiliation 5. After hitting a miss with Healer Yu who had left ahead of time, the remaining keepers were all getting quite anxious due to the old witch's increasingly dire condition. She's green and red all over. A sign her health wasn't getting any better or stabilizing. Do you remember that sword left to us by that individual? The sword is sealed with his power. With gritted teeth, Keeper Yellow mentions this with obvious intent. I remember. Keeper Zun pauses for a moment knowing where the conversation was heading. You want to use it now? That's right. Keeper Yellow huffs in an exasperated manner. Ruashi is the key when the calamity strikes. We can't let her life be in peril until then. It doesn't matter if we can keep the sword until that day if we loses her instead. Compared to a divine artifact, I rather we use that sword now and force the demon realm to hand over the antidote. Fine. Keeper Zun also agrees after deliberating the options. I will go grab the sword now. Then we can all attack the demon city together. Having said that, the kindest of these old fellas began to turn for the altar hall. However, right as he's about to make a second trip out of here, a gloomy and heavy voice stops him. You don't have to go. Frowning in the face, the confused elder swings his head around at the source of that voice. Why? Are you still unwilling to use the artifact? Don't you know what is more important here, Ruashi or the sword? The power in the sword could only be used once after being activated, so it's within reason to be unwilling. It's just that the following reply from Keeper Ling was a news so bad that it left everyone in a distraught state. I'm telling you not to go because I already took it with me when I went out to search for Ruashi. Bring the sword. He brought the sword. Then why would Ruashi be poisoned then? The idea kept circulating in the air without being spoken. But the sword was destroyed by Di Tsang. Boom. Similar to a thunderbolt, their minds were blown away until it's a blank slate. But the sword was destroyed by Di Tsang. Ruined? You're kidding with us, right? Keeper Zun asks with trembling vocals. Even if the sword didn't carry the sealed power inside anymore, it's still a divine artifact. What power could destroy a divine artifact? Not even they could make a dent on the blade, let alone destroy it. Keeper Yellow was the first to come back to his senses. Without another word, he rushes up to his grumpy counterpart and grabbed the collar. Keeper Ling, tell me you are kidding about all this. Tell me you're only cracking a bad joke. The latter didn't speak, only keeping silent to reaffirm his answer, which was enough to make Keeper Yellow lose his strength and grasp. They all understood now, this was no joke. Why did you take the sword out without discussing the matter with us first? Do you know what you've done? Despite being the kindest and most tempered of them all, Keeper Zun also felt angered and frustrated at the other seniors' rash action thus far. How are we supposed to save Ruashi now? The sword could have helped us in procuring an antidote, but now without it, what else can force the demon realm into submission? The kind keeper continues to berate the other side with red showing in his old eyes. Guilty as seen, Keeper Ling didn't talk back this time, and simply took it. Bang! Unable to take it anymore due to the lack of reaction, Keeper Yellow loses it first, and throws a punch directly into the other man's chest. He didn't hold anything back, causing Ling to start throwing up blood, due to the former injury. Enough! Yes, I did make a mistake in taking the sword without first informing you all. But what does it matter now? rather than continue to dig at me. How about we all think of a way to get a cure first? As frustrated and angry as Keeper Yellow was at the bastard, he also had to agree to the fact that fighting wasn't the solution. This includes the remaining keepers who also nodded in agreement. By Yan's return 1. Ling, we are truly chilled to the bones this time after what you've done without our consent. Keeper Zun expresses his displeasure by making his tone cold and distant. However, regardless of the friction happening inside the Celestial Palace, we will put everything aside for the sake of Ruashi. The urgent matter is, like you said, to save her. Everything else can come afterwards. It took several days for Keeper Ling to bring Yin Ruashi back, meaning the poison has already been at work for a while. Based on the dreaded appearance of the old witch's body right now, they fear she really might not make it if nothing was done soon. It looks like we only have one option left. Keeper Zoom continues after a long silence. Just like Ling said, Demon King Di Tsong is injured after destroying the divine artifact, meaning the fighting force of the demon city is at its weakest right now. Go issue a celestial edict in my name. We will gather all the forces we can for a final assault. In the celestial realm, most of the demi-divine lords are gathered in this celestial palace, but there are also some who refused the invitation to join this organization and would rather live a reclusive life. They may not like this idea, but they couldn't do anything either about the will of others. Will this really work? Keeper Yellow asks after a brief pause. I'm only having them distract by Ning's attention. I'm not asking those outsiders to die for us. When the woman is busy fighting, me and Keeper Ling will sneak behind the main battle line and catch the demon princess. Pausing in his speech, Keeper Zun gives each of his peer a meaningful look to emphasize what it means to fail in this mission. By then I refuse to believe we can't force the girl to hand over an antidote. If they fail, then it would spell the end of this world. That's an outcome they couldn't afford. Looks like it's the only way. Keeper Yellow sighs at the idea. Ruashi can't die. Otherwise the last hope they have would die with her. Those old fools out there knows this as well. I doubt they will be stupid enough to refuse our summoning with the celestial edict. Besides, what can Bai Ning do by herself? Even if we can't kill her, keeping her at bay is easily within our ability, let alone adding in help from the outside. Coughing hard while lying in bed, the old witch weakly forces a smile with her palish face. Keepers, please take me with you. I want to go as well. Her voice was extremely faint, smaller than that of a fly, which only made her look all the more pitiful and weak. Ruashi, your health is not good. Why are you asking to come? Keeper Zun asks with warmth in his voice, a total difference to his earlier cold attitude. I can handle it. All of you are working so hard for me. How can I hide here like a coward? Keeper Zun, I know you're afraid my health will fail, but believe in your strength. I know all of you can protect me. The demon realm's about to be overturned, and Bai Yan's children are going to be slaughtered. As if I will stay here and not watch that important moment in person? There's also another reason the old witch wanted to go in person as well, and that was to retrieve the crescent moon amulet. She needs to make sure it returns to her possession, because it's the only item able to prove to these keepers that she's the supposed savior. Without it, would they continue to believe her lies? Maybe and maybe not. Regardless of the future, she's not going to give them even that sliver of a chance to doubt her. If Ruashi wants to go, then let her come along. I'm curious though, why did those bastards from the demon realm steal her amulet? We all know it's special, and can't be used by just anyone. It's then Keeper Zun brought up this important bit of fact, which left everyone frowning in the room, due to the dilemma. Bai Yan's return too. Keeper Zun. The old witch makes a bittersweet smile. This is my fault, the blame is on me. I accidentally exposed the secret of my amulet to those demons, thinking they wouldn't try to steal it off me. They believe they can also be the ones to save both realms instead of me. Wheezing in her breath due to the difficulty of speaking, the woman looked incredibly pale now, like she's in pain. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I got complacent because I was able to resonate with my amulet and learn of its name being all heaven. But I exposed all heaven to those demons. After they learned of this, they snatched it off my hands and said they should be the ones to use it. Even though the poison has entered her body for some time now and caused huge damages inside, it's still not enough to hinder her foul nature from coming out. Her words were very effective, which roused a strong response from the crowd, because this would be the first time the woman said the amulet resonated. This time we can't hold back any longer. I'm going to gather everyone right now, and together, we will rip those shameless demons to shred. Demon City. Not far away in the sky, Bai Yin was currently leading her son by holding his hand while flying forward in a very fast pace. And behind her, there's the immaculate-looking young man that's also keeping pace from the rear. Frowning in the face after noticing the strange movement on the ground, the woman stops traveling and begins to observe downwards. Son, do you see how many people are heading in one direction? I believe something has happened in the celestial realm while we were away. Mother. The steambun also appeared worried after assessing the strange behavior of the people below. I also feel the same way. Those people below, I think they are all heading towards the demon city. If it's just some ordinary people, then it's nothing to be worried about. But according to their senses, they could tell even the lowest level among the wave of individuals down there are at the middle divine with some high divines mixed in here and there. But more importantly, there's also one demi-divine lord. The celestial realm has more demi-divine lords. Bai Yan's heart began to pound at the thought. Unlike those who are rash and brash, the woman has always been the careful type. Hence the reason why she made a spy agency back in the human world. Though she's never met all the keepers in person, but she had made sure to remember their portraits long ago. And right here, this demi-divine lord, she didn't recognize him at all. Yen. Demi-divine lords aren't unique to the celestial palace. There are others living out in the celestial realm. It's then Mo Li Shang, the young man, speaks up after understanding why the woman was acting so perplexed. These individuals are not part of any power, and are usually on their own. Therefore, it's widely recognized that the keepers are the strongest force. Of course, there's also the factor of the celestial palace acting in a dictatorship manner. That's why no one have been able to surpass their influence and power. If they did find anyone able to challenge their authority, they would have long been erased by those old fools. Now Bai Yan's heart only got more worried. Let's go, we need to get back to the demon city right away. I have a bad feeling about all this. Something must have happened while we weren't around. There's no way the residents of the demon city wouldn't notice the huge movement of forces on their border. That's why the defenders were already ready for any attack. It's just that the expected time frame for this maneuver came faster than planned. I knew the Celestial Palace would begin their attack on us, but not this quickly. Only 5 days. Bai Ning sighs at the unfortunate event. Bai Yan's return 3, Grandma. Di Lingyan squirms into Bai Ning's arm to gain a sense of protection after noticing the oppressive air around everyone. Lingyan. The woman's heart ached at the little fella's innocent gaze that's staring up to herself. Why are you out here? Is your father awake already? Shaking her little head. No, father is still asleep in the bedchamber. When will mother come back? She's been gone for an awful long time. If mother is back, then I'm sure there will be a way to wake up father. The poor grandmother only kept silent at the careless remark. She wanted to say everything would be fine, and that Bai Yin would return very soon. But that would be a lie, and she couldn't do that to this little baby that's so innocent and kind. Ling Yan, I'm going to send you to a good place, okay? Huh? The girl blinks in a confused manner. Is grandmother going to leave me behind? No, of course not, silly. Swiping the baby's nose as a little tease, Bai Ning forms a smile to reassure her depressed granddaughter. The place I'm sending you to is where a friend of mine lives. He's a demon like you. I saved him by coincidence a long time ago, and now he's currently resting there to heal. If I send you there, then I'm sure he will protect you, knowing you're my family. This time it was Di Ling Yen to go quiet. Staring downwards in a contemplative manner, the girl apparently had to take a moment to process the idea before looking back up. Grandmother, is something going to happen to the demon city? Can't you solve it? Are those bad people coming back? Bai Ning undoubtedly became shocked by how perceptive this little child was. It's true she's trying to keep the baby out of harm's way by sending her away, but to be so easily exposed went beyond her imagination. You need to believe in grandmother here, Ling Yan. The city is fine. Showing a helpless smile. If something really is about to happen, then I wouldn't be able to send you away, would I? Grandma is lying. Something is clearly happening in the city. I'm not going. I'm going to stay here and wait for mother to come back. Pouting her lips, the demon princess stubbornly refuses. Unfortunately for the lass, the grandmother there didn't intend to give her a choice. Right as she's distracted, Bai Ning used one of her needles and poked the child's sleeping point. Ling Yan, I'm sorry. You're too smart, so grandmother here can only resort to such means. Jerry, Grandma. Growing increasingly faint as her little mind became more and more tired. Try as she might, Ling Yan eventually succumbs to the trick and fell fast asleep, but not before a trickle of tear came rolling down those eyes. Bai Ning saw this reaction and knew why. Tightly holding the baby up to give one last hug with her own face, the woman honestly wanted to keep her around, but knew it could do only bad in that option. Grandma. It's then another soft and childish voice came from the rear. It's Jin Tian, the baby girl's twin brother. He didn't hear the whole conversation, but did catch the part where his sister fell asleep. What is Ling Yan doing? Your sister is tired and needs to rest. Bai Ning smiled as the boy tries to check up on his sister. Jin Tian, do you want to go visit a paradise I own? There's a lot of delicious things there, like fruits and candies. I'm sure you will find a lot of surprises there. That did it. The little glutton could be seen drooling right then and there. A sure sign he's been baited. I'm going, Grandma, take me. Smirking at her own success, Bai Ning finally felt a little proud at her own achievement. Compared to the granddaughter, this grandson was a lot easier to deceive. Bai Yan's return for. I'm sorry, Jin Tian. Grandma here is not free to go with you. I will have First Elder take you though. Once you're over there, you must take care of your sister, okay? Okay. The little glutton desperately nodded without suspecting a thing. I will take good care of my sister. I will give her the delicious things first, so hurry, Grandma. Tell First Elder to take us now. I want to eat the delicious fruits. I wonder if the fruit there is as good as the Sky Mountains. I miss those fruits. The ones here aren't good at all. Not sweet and all icky. Thinking up to here, Jin Tian's lip immediately found his face forming into a pouting expression. He misses his old home where no one would hurt him, nor try to steal his food away. Jin Tian, go find your sister Mu Ying, and have her go with you as well. I have something I need to say to First Elder. She says after noticing the arrival of the old elder. Some things mustn't be said in front of the boy, regardless of how gullible he was at heart. A while later, after the child was gone, the first to break the ice was the woman herself. First Elder, I need to ask you a favor. Please take the kids to a certain place to dodge the upcoming battle. Return if the fighting is done, but if I fall in battle, then don't bring them back. She may be showing a sad smile like someone facing death, but her eyes are strong and unyielding. Madam Bai Ning, you should take them instead. I will stay behind to defend the city. This crisis is ours to bear. Furthermore, you are the queen's mother. You shouldn't be staying to face such danger. The elder replies with a bittersweet smile of his own, knowing full what it means to stay behind. Shaking her head and causes the old senior to stare upwards in shock by what she says. Yin Yin cares a lot about the demon realm. Whatever my daughter cares about is what I care about. I will guard this place while she is gone. If the city lives, then I live. If the city falls, then I will fall with it. The elder's heart shook as he got quiet. He could argue with that determination. Here, take this map. The route I've marked will likely be the safest. Also, she suddenly stopped as if she's thought of something bad. If I am unfortunate enough to face my end during the upcoming battle, then help me go back to the human world. Tell my husband it's my blessing to have met him in this life. I hope he can forgive me in not being able to return to him. And I still have a brother and father over there. Please help take care of them. At this moment, Bai Ning suddenly found that her life has too many things to worry and care about. But she really didn't have a choice in this matter. True, the woman did consider the idea of retreating from this city with all its residences. But what then afterwards? Go back to the main territory of the demon realm. It won't stop the forces of the celestial realm from invading. And what then? It would only create a bigger war and bigger casualty in doing so. What's more, Bai Yin hasn't returned yet. As her mother, Bai Ning doesn't want to leave without making sure her daughter was safe. First Elder had nothing more to say at this point. He knows persuasion was out of the question. And if he did make the lady leave, then who's going to defend the city? Himself. He would, of course. But the strength he held wouldn't be able to make a difference. Madam Bai Ning, I will remember your requests. And I will also protect the princess and prince with my life. That I promise. Closing his eyes like he's grown older, First Elder had to take a big breather before opening them again. However, his gaze was solid and firm, a sign he's going to see through to his vow at the cost of his own life. Bai Yan's return 5. Demon City. There's only a loud rumbling ruckus outside its defensive walls at this point. Its defenders are now trapped with no way out. Have the demons get out here. Under the oppressive air of the looming sky, this chanting phrase kept echoing with no end in sight. Exactly then, as if to answer that demand, a snowy white figure came flying out towards this horde of enemies that want to destroy those inside. It's a woman, a very beautiful one at that. If not for the high and mighty gaze holding these people in contempt, the males here would have likely fallen for her at first sight. You're a resident of this demon city? An old man wearing a robe made of linen material stepped forward, his eyes narrowing into an examining fashion. If I'm not mistaken, you should be a human, right? Wah! The crowd flew into an uproar at this unexpected news. As a human being, colluding with demons and monsters during this period was unheard of. It's equivalent to treason, and would be executed without reason. And what if I'm human? The queen of the demon world is my daughter. I won't allow anyone to move against this city, while that's so. Bai Ning sarcastically responds, showing not an ounce of shame, and only pride at her daughter's status. By the time she finished, the demon soldiers stationed along the wall had already marched out of the gates to stand in battle formation. They're fully ready for what's coming, since this was expected, and not some surprise attack. Amongst the army ranks, the most eye-catching and noticeable would have to be the old goat Dragon Flame, and his longtime compatriot from the underground world, half Ching Sing the Demoness with half a snake face. Although both of them knew their current strength wouldn't hold a candle against those demi-divine lords right now, it doesn't change their will to fight beside Bai Ning. Madam, the old man saw that the other side was human, so his initial killing intent had receded somewhat. Sighing like it's a shame to be fighting a fellow demi-divine lord. You should know what we are here for. For the sake of humanity, hand over the little princess under your protection, and I will guarantee your safety. The other demi-divine lords here, right now in the battlefield, aren't from the Celestial Palace, so they're not as tyrannical in their behavior. Nevertheless, death was a scary factor that could drive anyone to move if it's avoidable. Bai Ning's face only carried a cynical snarl at the demand. Death of the celestial realm has nothing to do with me, nor will I hand over my own granddaughter for your people's sake. Today, unless you can bury me under this soil, none will take another step forward. Charging in a flash, her figure descends from the sky at breakneck speed to attack the foe. She's done talking at this point. If so, then you leave us no choice. Likewise, the old man in charge of this fighting force also draws his blade to meet the assault head-on. Just like that, the curtain to this war has been drawn, signaling the start of the clash between demon and celestials. Bai Yan's return 6. The battle did not last long before the members of the Celestial Palace appeared on the battlefield. Right away and without surprise, Keeper Ling was full of resentment along his old eyes after accessing the situation. He's literally grinding his teeth because he's now realized the deception. Truth was, this old fella had been there for a while. Just that due to fear of the woman, he had kept himself hidden in the back and kept watching. Then that's when the truth hit him, after some observation. The strength portrayed by the woman was obviously different from the previous battle. In other words, he's been tricked by some secret method that could raise a person's power without any form of defect. Bai Ning didn't know nor care about the other side's thought though. She's entirely focused on the battle at hand, due to how vicious the opponents are. Sure, the woman was a demi-divine lord, but fighting several foes at the same level was straining to say the least. For the rest of the demons defending the city, they aren't faring so well either. Many have died after the initial clash, with most suffering from some sort of wound by this point. However, the will to fight hasn't elevated in the least due to the deep hatred they had for the celestial realm. It's their life's goal to get payback for the humiliation their kind suffered a millennium ago, something that has fully ingrained into their bones from birth. Keeper Ling, didn't you say that Bai Ning is very strong, and that we need to be wary of her? From the way I see it, she's no more than our equal at best. Speaking here was Keeper Yellow, the one who disliked the grumpy senior the most. I was deceived by her, that I admit. Keeper Ling immediately got all ugly in the face as he huffed a grunt over the remark. Regardless, it's a good thing for us knowing she's not as strong as I believed. Now we won't have to enact the previous plan and directly attack the city instead. The demon princess will be ours. Without further ado, the old senior shot out like a cannonball to begin his own redemption. Bang! Due to how unexpected the attack was, plus the fact that it came from her rear, Bai Ning had to struggle hard to swing around in time to force a palm strike of her own. Even so, the recoiling force from the impact of two immense powers were more than enough to send her stumbling backwards due to the loss of balance. But this effect was nowhere enough to satiate the grumpy keeper. Not giving the woman a chance to retaliate or to get her head together, he launches into a barrage like a mountain crushing down at an ant. He's relentless and had no intent to hold back. Keeper Yellow, you protect Ruashi here. We will join the fight. She won't last much longer if we don't get the antidote soon. Furrowing along the brow, the kind Keeper Zun says before charging into the fray as well. He's got a bad feeling about all this, but couldn't figure out why. Not long ago, Di Ling Yan and Di Jin Tian were both taken away by First Elder as planned before the final enclosure could be made around the city, and as a safety precaution, the Elder also took the crazy old coot with them in order to ensure there's no possible danger. For that reasoning, Winger did not leave with the group and stayed behind. The Queen is my lifesaver, and Madame Bai Ning is her mother. Standing beside the gate entrance was the Birdman himself. He could have fled on his own or tagged along with the part if he insisted, but his consciousness wouldn't allow that and kept him here in this station. He's been watching the fighting and had a grim outlook on the way the battle was turning out. Winger, what are you doing? Are you just going to keep standing here and watch while everyone dies before your very eye? No, I won't do this. She may not be here in person, but I must do what I can to protect her family. That's the least I can do for all the mistakes I've done so far. Bai Yan's return 7. Due to the constant barrage of assaults from multiple opponents, Bai Ning's figure eventually started to show signs of overexertion. She's less agile and clearly whiter in the face as the battle dragged out. Noticing this, Keeper Ling wanted to press his advantage and push for another attack. However, it's exactly then the thunderous sky above their heads suddenly stopped rumbling and turned into a grayish mass. Bang! Not expecting to be attacked from the rear himself, the old grumpy keeper found his chest taking a heavy blow, thus causing a huge amount of blood to come pouring out of his mouth. Who are you? He asks with a shocked look in the face after regaining his footing. The old fella never experienced such a cold hard glare before, and such power. It's actually making him feel uneasy inside. Winger. Yun Ruashi became shocked as well by the sight. No, it can't be. This is not the Winger that I know. That person is a weak-minded fool. Not this one here with such an intense dominant aura. Who am I? Winger chuckles sarcastically. Yun Ruashi should know me better than anyone here. I am the one she used for the past several hundred years, and shoved aside once she was done. Keeper Ling's expression changed greatly, mostly in the irate fashion. Ruashi is not such a person. It's useless to frame her. We will not believe anything you say, fiend. Frame her? Ha ha. As if she is worth me framing her. She took the queen's amulet and used it to mislead me. Otherwise, why else would I follow her orders for the past several centuries? Fortunately, I now know the truth. It's you fools who are still being lied to by her, and being toyed around like idiots. The keepers naturally wouldn't believe a single word from the bird man. But that doesn't mean it would be the same for those not of the celestial palace. This was especially true for the demi-divine lords called upon for this battle. They have stopped fighting after the initial uproar from the weaker soldiers, and are staring over to demand an explanation. Keeper Ling, is what he said true or not? You need to give us an explanation. One of the leading figures in the battlefield comes forward, his voice heavy and demanding. Keeper Ling. It's then the old witch spoke up using her weak but angry voice like she's been humiliated. I do not know this demon, nor do I know why he's trying to frame me. I may not be some great saint in this world, but I am not one to be pushed over just because of my good nature. They've already stole my possession. This is unjust to say the least. Of course, compared to the words of a demon, these men from the celestial realm would much rather believe someone that's on their side. I didn't expect the demon realm to be this shameless. It's already one thing to steal other people's possession, then to turn it around and say it's the other side that's robbed you? That's right. Miss Ruashi's amulet is something I've heard about as well. They say the one who controls the amulet will reign supreme, and that not just anyone can activate it. Even if you demons take it away, it's of no use to you. Upon hearing the voices of all those on their side trying to defend herself, the old witch's sickly mouth began to form a smirk. She's very cheeky due to her own success. Bai Yan's return, 8. So what if Bai Yan got those demons to take back the amulet? The people from the celestial realm will never believe her. Moreover, the old witch has also decided that Bai Yan doesn't have the ability to activate the amulet. If she did have the ability, then why did she give her the item all those years ago? Presumably, this amulet, it's not hers either. She probably snatched it from someone else as well. Winger's gaze grew even more colder now after being refuted. Originally he wanted to stall for time until Deetsong awakens, but it seems he underestimated the trust these people had for the celestial palace. Yun Ruashi, I made a grave mistake when I mistakenly believed you. So today I, Winger, will use my life as proof to redeem myself. I am a member of the demon realm, and will have nothing to do with the celestial realm. Boom. His momentum blows up like a storm after that vow, growing several times more powerful than earlier. If the Birdman's aura could be considered worrying for the enemy earlier, then he's downright threatening after powering up like this. Keeper Ling naturally perceived this drastic change. He's tremoring inside, not out of cowardice, but an instinctive fear of the opponent at a cellular level. So, without a single word, this arrogant and grumpy senior did the only thing that came to his mind: turn tail and flee to the rear for cover. The other keepers also reacted similarly. Sadly for them though, a few were too late in their pace. They simply didn't think it's possible for the demon city to hide someone so powerful that's not of the demon king. PFFFF. One of the slowest runners didn't even know what hit him then. Without a moment to retaliate, this poor keeper came crashing down to the ground in heavy thud, his eyes showing an intense fear at the ever-encroaching bird demon. Winger didn't have time to waste here, though, like most people would be doing while they are at an advantage. He randomly picked up a sword from the battlefield and swung down at his decapitated foe, causing a huge gash to be ripped down the keeper's back. There's enormous blood splatter, due to the destructive energy in there. This was exactly what Keeper Ling saw when he turned his head to take a look at his rear. It's horrific in the eye of this man. Something he never even thought possible for a demi-divine lord to be slain so easily. Gritting his teeth. Who the hell are you? The queen is my lifesaver. Because she is my lifesaver, I will not allow anyone to harm her family. A shudder ran through the old witch's heart after she heard what Winger said in his reply. She's very weak and needed to lean in against an old tree for support. Even so, This condition still didn't hinder her from clenching up those hands into a ball. Why? Why didn't Winger show such power when following me? Why only when he's by Yan's side does he become this powerful? This man, did he do it on purpose? Deliberately hide his power? The more she thought about it, the more frustrated and irate this old witch became. Though to be fair, this time it's not Winger's fault for misleading the woman. It's not on purpose. Rather it's for self-preservation from those hunting this bird man, which manifested into reality, right then and there, as the destructive lightning of purplish hue materializes above his head. Winger saw this change of course, and it made him fall into a panic. He honestly thought there would be more time for him to move, before his whereabout was known. But no matter, he's decided to see through to the end, and won't stop even if it meant his burial would be at hand. By Yan's return 9. The ones killed thus far may happen to be only from the Celestial Palace, but those summoned for this battle was still falling into a panic. They came to help win a war, not to throw their lives away. So, after a brief exchange of looks between themselves, these demi-divine lords all turned tail, and fled in all directions like it didn't matter anymore. Winger didn't go after these individuals despite the opening. His focus remained solely on the keepers at hand. Like a mighty tiger that's been provoked, he flew for Keeper Yellow next, and smacked a direct punch at his back, causing the old elder to shoot dozens of meters out in the process. Bai Ning didn't move despite being beside the bird man. She's just as shocked as the others because the guy didn't show any sign of being this powerful. Heck, if the woman had known the guy was this strong, she wouldn't have schemed on Keeper Ling and directly killed the old fella at the last encounter. Unfortunately, Winger did not know what's going through Bai Ning's mind right now, nor the old witch's for that matter. If he had only took a glance, even a simple whip of his eyes toward Yun Ruoxi, then he would surely discover the sour jealous glare coming his way. Damn him! That power should have been mine to use. How dare he betray me and turn to Bai Yan's side? In light of what she thought, the old witch felt more of a sense of regret than anger. If she knew how capable Winger was then she would never have treated him like so back then. Such a valuable tool was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boom! Suddenly, right as the bird man was about to attack to finish off Keeper Yellow, a purplish bolt of lightning roared down from sky. It came way too fast, leaving the recipient without room to avoid. With a tremble after the hit, Winger felt blood swirling up from his throat, but kept it down through sheer force and will. He's resolved to kill the members of the Celestial Palace. Until he succeeds, he won't stop. Madam Bai Ning, Uncle Dragonflame, all of you leave now, go. He cries out with anxious urgency. You, taken aback by the tone, Bai Ning makes a perplexed face. What's the matter? Go. Without explaining, Winger dropped this sentence and charged yet again. Perhaps the thunderbolt affected his strength too much, but the bird man could no longer finish off a demi-divine lord in one instantaneous blow. But even so, under his mighty fist, Keeper Yellow once again flew out several meters, and puked even more blood. Haha, you demons are getting retribution from the heavens now, ahahaha. The blood-ridden old elder coughs and laughs with deep cynical sarcasm. Sinking in his complexion, Winger once again throws another punch at a different keeper to vent his frustration. However, those sharp eyes of his never once left Keeper Yellow while speaking. If the demons have done so much bad things, then why are the thunders only going after me? Even if there is divine retribution, it's only directed at me. It's I who's done too many evil. Aha! You can ask Yun Ruoxi yourself. Ask her how many evil deeds I did in the past century for her. He won't allow anyone to frame the demon realm. If there's any blame to be had, then it's on him. He's going to shoulder it all. That's his conviction and determination. Against the retort, Keeper Yellow obviously wanted to say some more mocking words. However, he's not getting the opportunity, because Winger obviously intends to kill him before he did so. By Yan's return 10. As the destructive bolts of lightning grew more and more intense, as it continued to blast Winger's unyielding body, the birdman's outer appearance had fallen into a bloodied mess. He's struggling to keep up his strength, but it's obvious the strain was beginning to wear at his soul. You want to know what I did to deserve this? Do you? I'll tell you all. He yells with flaming ferocity. 200 years ago, there was a high divine in the celestial palace who didn't like Yun Ruoxi and badmouthed her. As a consequence of that, she ordered me to kill that individual. I killed him like she wished. 100 years ago, she saw a demonic beast that refused to obey her. Guess what? She ordered me to catch it for her. And I did like she wished. That poor creature, that demon got skinned alive, and then was left for dead in the mountains by her. With every word that came out of Winger's mouth, the more he trembled like he's venting the inner guilt and hatred he had for himself, due to all the sins he committed. Not even the thunder could hide his emotional voice upon mentioning that story. He thought the old witch only wanted to contract that demonic beast. That's why he helped her catch it. To think the real reason was just because the vile woman only wanted to vent her anger. Then by the time he figured out what has transpired, it was too late. The creature was long dead by then. Worst of all, he did the stupidest thing possible afterwards. He forgave her. How dumb could he have been? Forgiving such a vile evil being. Any normal person would have long left after that incident. 50 years ago, there were 2 maids in the celestial palace gossiping about the celestial lord, and claimed they wanted to be his consort. They disappeared the next day. Ha ha ha. They didn't disappear at all. I'm the one who offed them after Yun Ruoxi, she ordered me to. 30 years ago. As the details slowly came to light, Winger's momentum continued to grow more murderous. He's not able to muster more strength, but it doesn't hinder his killing intent from showing, and that's exactly what's happening. Now you tell me, why wouldn't the thunderbolts come after me? And these evil things, they're all done at the request of that Yun Ruoxi. She also ordered me to kill the Demon Realm's prince and princess. Fortunately, I woke up in time and learned to refuse her request. At this point, the only keeper that hasn't been toppled over was Keeper Ling, the grumpy old fella, who continued to resist the bird man's relentless assault. However, the fight was done after the final thunder came down on Winger. The bird man was on his last leg after that hit, causing him to throw up a mouthful of blood and falling to the ground. Naturally, Keeper Zun and the other toppled keepers were all very much stunned in the face. They are willing to believe the old witch with their hearts, but this story, it's too detailed to be false. This was especially true when the Celestial Palace did experience many mysterious disappearances over the years. That's also making the story more convincing. How could such a good girl do such a bad thing? Madam Bai Ning. Winger wanted to say some more sadly. His strength has been depleted by the thunder. Moreover, the strong woman herself wasn't untouched by the impacting force either. It's also hurting her. Winger, how can I help you? Is there any way to stop these lightnings? Bai Ning asked anxiously. The bird man could do nothing but shake his head. He knows well enough that unless he dies, these thunderous clouds would never disperse. Bai Yan's return 11, so, this time, I will die without a doubt. In this instant, all that could come to Winger's mind was a lovely and stubborn little face, his cold eyes showing a flicker of reluctance at that image. Princess, I'm afraid in the future, I can't stay with you anymore. Watch out. Dragon Flame saw how a lightning was directly coming down above Bai Ning and Winger's head, so he hurried to drag the woman away. The old goat wanted to save Winger too, but if he tried to move him as well, it would be a pointless effort because the target was obviously him. Boom. This time the impacting force was incredibly violent, more so than any other strike from before. And sure enough, Winger's body instantly exuded a burnt smell and appeared scorched and black. The old goat couldn't hold it in anymore despite his own fears of that power. Letting go of the queen's mother, he sped over to his acquaintance's son to see if he's fine. He knew it wouldn't be good, but the condition of the victim went beyond his expectation. Winger had reverted back to his beastral bird form and laid there silently on the ground. Winger. He calls out tentatively to see if there's a reaction. At this moment, the old goat felt indescribable pain as emotions ran wild in his old heart. Unfortunately, no response came of that beckoning. There's only blood, a reddish-burnt fluid seeping out of Winger's body, a sure sign that the worst possible outcome has befallen the victim. Against this sort of picture, Dragonflame knew it's too late for him to help. If it wasn't for these people from the celestial realm, he wouldn't have died. This is all those bastards' fault. Dragonflame, you go deal with those people. I'll think of a way to save him. Bai Ning says with clenched teeth, her eyes sharp as a knife while staring straight up at the looming cloud of electric might above their heads. Although Winger's status was that of a guard in the city, but make no mistake, everyone knew the bird man could have fled without sacrificing himself. He's here because of Bai Yen. For that reason alone, Bai Ning mustn't give up even if it means challenging whatever powers behind that thunderstrike. Just as the proud woman's about to step forward to do the unimaginable, a light call suddenly came down from the rear. Mother? After hearing this voice, the startled woman gradually looked up, her sight slowly landing on a similar face to her own. Yen, when did you get back? Normally Bai Ning would have it no other way than to have her daughter return as soon as possible. But this moment here in the heat of a life or death battle, she didn't want to see the girl. Bai Yen did not answer Bai Ning's question, only descending with her son in tow from the sky. Mother, what's going on here? She didn't miss the burnt-looking bird on the ground, and the incapacitated keepers further away. Bai Ning couldn't respond to that due to an unexpected change in the air. Right as the mother and son came down, this grandmother immediately noticed the power from the lightning promptly increasing and growing more tyrannical. And, instead of focusing in on Winger like it did before, the lightning bolts are now focused entirely on Bai Yan's spot. Yin, be careful. The grandmother urgently raised a hand to drag her family behind herself. Thankfully she did so too because right afterwards, a lightning bolt had come striking down and leaving a deep hole right in front of them on the ground. Bai Yin gawked at the suddenness of it all. All she knew was that people from the celestial realm are here looking for trouble. But these thunderbolts, why would it want to kill her? Mother, are you all right? Furrowing in the brow, Bai Yin reaffirms everyone's well-being before looking for her own husband's shadow. It's within reason for this demon queen to expect her partner the demon king to be around when an invasion force was at their doorstep. Yet Deetsong was nowhere to be found. At this realization, an uncomfortable sensation rattled the woman's heart. Did something happen to him? Where's Deetsong? She asks with a worried note. The skies might one. Taken aback by the question, Bai Ning took a moment to reply. There isn't any issue with Deetsong's body anymore, but he's no waking up yet, so I don't know the situation either. Her words were akin to a rod, smashing down against Bai Yan's heart in heavy strides. In the end I came back way too late. Compared with the demon queen's anger and grief, Dragonflame only showed a look of joy along his old eyes. Queen, you are finally back. Before when First Elder left, he gave me a message that the king can be awakened by the jade pendant he left with you. Do you have it still? That's the best thing a worried wife could hear about their husband's condition. Without delay, really? It's true, Your Highness. That's what First Elder told me before he left with the prince and princess. Dragonflame replies with earnest tone. Bai Yin holds a lot of trust for this old goat, so she didn't doubt the information. However, right as her fingers about to touch the jade pendant from Deetsong and hand it over, boom! Thankfully Bai Yin was ready and escaped in the nick of time after being nearly hit the first time around. There's heavy scorch mark from where she stood, which alarmed the now alerted demon queen that it's no accident or coincidence before. Without another thought, she tosses the important pendant over to the old goat. Dragonflame, you go back and save Deetsong, I'll handle the fighting here. These lightnings came for her, and now that her husband was unconscious, it's only right as the wife that she controls the front. She's a woman and not a baggage. Mother, you take Xiaochen and leave as well. After saying this, Bai Yin immediately threw her son over without asking for consent. No, mother. The steam bun became scared at being removed. Out of reflex, he wanted to grasp onto the sleeve to go back. Unfortunately, those small little hands weren't fast enough. All of you leave. Boom. Like a moth captured by the flame, Those thunderous bolts once again came firing down at Bai Yan's spot. Yenner! Bai Ning cries out in fright at this horrific scene. She also wanted to go save her daughter, but the child in her arm was a package she couldn't ignore. In the end, this desperate pair of grandmother and grandson could only watch the numerous streaks of death come flying down like a bombardment. He, being the only healthy individual from the celestial palace around, Keeper Ling just couldn't keep his trap shut in cases like these. A scourge will always be a scourge. Look, even the heavens want your life. That's what you get for stealing the amulet from Ruashi. You deserve all the retributions you are getting, ha ha ha. Shut up. Bai Ning flew into a furious rage, swinging her sword out at the nasty old man that wants her daughter dead. She promptly catches the old bastard in the heat of the moment to cause a deep scar along the face. If you say one more word, then I will have my sword land on that Ruashi's head next. You! Going green at the indignation, Keeper Ling wanted to lash out but couldn't. He knows that with the woman's character, that's not an idle threat but a prediction. Most of the other keepers are still alive, but they're all injured in some way. That means there's no way to ensure absolute safety for Yun Ruashi right now. Against such a risk, the old grumpy guy couldn't afford it. The skies might too. Mistress. Half Ching Sing saw the countless lightning spreading across the field, and was appalled by the level of destructive might it controlled. What kind of power is this? This power was too much terrifying, beyond anything this snake demoness has ever seen. Bai Ning panicked at the scene. The woman thought her willpower would stop that body from moving on its own due to the boy in her arms, but that's apparently a wrong assumption on her part. Without realizing it, the lady was already rushing towards where Bai Yin stood. Run away, Yenner, run away. Get out of this place. But no matter how fast Bai Ning's reflexive reaction was, she could never beat a speed that was a natural calamity. Before those feet could budge an inch, Bai Yan's figure had already been covered in a whole column of purplish bolts of death. From the various keepers' view, do you remember that man, what he said to us? The kind keeper Zun stiffly looks up, his body rigid and shaking due to what he's seeing. There's fear and disbelief hovering in those old eyes. He said that once the whole sky is covered in a sea of purplish thunder, is when those long-forgotten entities will descend upon this world. Only the bearer of the crescent-shaped amulet can save us, our salvation. And the sword he left us, don't you find that the thunder in front of us very similar to the power inside the sword? Yun Ruashi the Old Witch was more afraid than any of the keepers right now, for she knew what it could mean for herself. The calamity has come? Is this what they meant by the calamity? No way. The predicted time is still far away. How can it be now? Who can survive under this power? Thank goodness. Thank goodness my body isn't recovered yet. This way those keepers will still protect me as their last remaining hope. At the very least I can survive for a while longer. Tightly biting her own bits, the old witch may be able to fool her own mind, but make no mistake, the trembling in her body wasn't unknown to this woman. The reasoning? It's due to how appalling and horrific that lightning storm was. Boom! In this second, this very moment, Bai Ning felt like her entire world's collapsing as she watched her daughter become engulfed in that horrific mass of light. Mother, mother! Bai Xiaochen as well. He's crying out with excruciating pain plastered all over his face. Why? What did mother do wrong that everyone wants us dead? We never provoked anyone on our own. It wasn't until the smoke cleared before everyone could see what's truly transpired. But when they did, the ghastly scene wasn't what they expected. Instead of the woman being torn to shreds, the huge bird that was Winger had shielded the intended recipient and took the blunt of that barrage. Imagine being near death and sustaining a second lethal blow of unimaginable proportion. There's no way Winger wouldn't die from this under normal circumstances. How could this be? Half Ching Sing the snake demoness cusps her mouth in disbelief and shock. Isn't Winger dead before? How could he have gotten up on his own after sustaining the first injury? Impossible, that couldn't have been possible. The skies might 3. Have we met before? Bai Yin asks the huge bird, shielding herself with furrowed confusion. She doesn't know why either, but the lady here got this strange sensation that they know each other from somewhere. As if to answer that question, Winger's dreadful-looking face showed a reaction in the form of opening those tightly shut eyes. He doesn't know if Bai Yin here was the same person from back then in that dark place. But he does know one thing. The warmth he felt, he's feeling it right here from this person. That's all he needs to know. That flicker of warmth keeping him going all those years ago has returned. Are you all right? Bai Yin asks again, her voice growing emotional for reasons unknown to herself. No words came though from the bird. Make no mistake, Winger should have been down and at his last legs before Dragon Flame, and the rest was sure of it. However, he stood back up out of sheer will. That's the determination he had in protecting the light in his heart. Bai Yan's expression changed after realizing what's going to happen to her savior. Trying hard to push the huge bird aside so the lightning wouldn't hit him anymore. Let go of me. If you continue like this, then even your soul will perish. She still doesn't know who Winger was, but in her previous life too many have sacrificed themselves for her. Allowing more in this life went against everything she stands for. Despite the plea, the huge bird didn't budge. Not because Winger didn't want to, of course. Rather, it's due to his draining life force. Merely opening those eyes were all he could muster in his current state, let alone budge his huge body. You let go. I'm ordering you to let go. At this point, Bai Yan's voice had started to tremble with pain, which manifested in the form of flowing tears that she didn't thought would come. Not far away, Yun Ruo, she was taking this all in with begrudging hatred. She's jealous, venomously jealous at the way the bird was protecting her arch-nemesis. Why didn't Winger offer to die for me when he followed me? Why is he willing to die for that bitch instead of me? If I had known this Winger will betray me, then I would have tortured the bastard to death. Now it's all benefiting that bitch Bai Yan. Just when the venomous witch wanted to do something out of frustration, Bai Yan's roaring laugh suddenly cuts her off. There are tears mixed in with that laughter. But more were leaning towards a sort of dismissing arrogance at the world. I don't care what you are or where you're from, but I know one thing. You're not a heavenly thunder. Go ahead and send it my way if you got the ability. I will show you that you're nothing. I, Bai Yan, am not afraid of anyone. Whoever dares to hurt the people around me will pay sooner or later. I will slaughter you all. Bang! After saying this taunt, Bai Yan found the strength to finally push the bird, shielding herself aside, so he doesn't get caught in the crossfire. There's proud light gleaming out of the lady's eye, which showed how much of a contempt she had for the thunder above her head. Sure enough, the looming clouds began to swirl and rumble even harder, as if enraged by the mockery. There's no one here who couldn't feel the intensifying pressure in the air. That's how much power was gathering for the next blow. Despite the incredible scene taking place before their very eyes, not everyone was hypnotized on the lady. Keeper Zun here was one of the more aware of his surroundings when he turned to the old witch. Ruoshi, I remember you said you made a connection with the amulet a few days ago, didn't you? Ah, sounding guilty in her voice. Only a little though. I can't be sure if I can activate the amulet. Plus, I am now poisoned by the toxin inside my body. I'm afraid it will affect my ability to perform. The skies might for. We can't care about it so much anymore. This is not a thunderstorm, it's the calamity itself. If we don't find a way to stop it, then it will just be a matter of time before the entire celestial realm becomes destroyed. Sinking in the face until it's a dark shade, Keeper Zun struggles but manages to get himself upright to face Bai Yan. Demon Queen, hand over the amulet. What amulet? Don't pretend anymore. Ruoshi have already told me everything. You had your subordinate steal it from her, and wants to become the amulet's owner. I'm telling you now, that powerful individual said there can only be one owner, and that only Ruoshi can activate it. Even if you have the amulet, it's useless to you. This was one of the main reasons they endured the old witch's incompetence for all these years. In these old keepers' mindset, aside from Yun Ruoshi, no one else could activate it. The amulet is not with me. Dropping this answer, Bai Yin turns away to confront the thundercloud like she heard something stupid. getting uglier in his old face. Keeper Zun doesn't give up. Demon Queen, unless you hand over the amulet, then no one can live through the calamity. We won't demand the handover of your daughter anymore. All we ask is you return what you stole so we can all live. The amulet is here with me. Just then, an old voice came from the direction of the city's gate, which caught Bai Yan's attention right away due to its familiarity. Don't worry, mistress. I have given the pendant to the king as you instructed. I am back because of your amulet now. That said, Dragon Flame promptly raised his hand to reveal the crescent-shaped object. Keeper Zun recognized the amulet of course and flew into a joyous outcry. That's it. That's the amulet. Return it at once, and our celestial palace will not blame you for stealing it. Haha. The old goat merely laughed at the demand. Do you think things will be settled just because you say so? This is my mistress's property to begin with. Since that Yun Ruo she kept it for so many years, our demon realm will naturally want some interest back for the loan. Without hesitation, the old goat threw the object in his hand out for Bai Yin to catch. Bai Yin felt it the first second. She held all heavens in her palm. It's regenerating her wounds at an incredible speed and refreshing her soul. All heaven, she murmurs with emotional attachment. You're finally back. Quit pretending, Bai Yin. Keeper Zun lashes out. He's annoyed thinking it's a pretentious act. You only found out its name through Ruoshi's mouth. We won't be fooled. We all know you're the scourge of the celestial realm. The prophecy foretold your undoing, so you can stop the act. In these old fools' mind, Bai Yin was the scourge that would bring destruction to all, while Yun Ruo, she was the savior, and would save them all. That's why they would do what they did back then, murder Bai Yin and her unborn child. The Skies Might 5. Bai Yin slowly closes her eyes, ignoring the old ignorant fool words to focus on the peace inside herself. Grandma, what's wrong with mother? Bai Xiachen nervously holds onto Bai Ning's hand and asked with those big eyes of his. He's afraid of the worst possible outcome coming true again. Bai Ning did not answer the child's question though, only fixing her eyes solely on her own daughter, and not knowing what to think of it. Whoosh! Suddenly, the amulet bursts forth a gentle light, shrouding both Bai Yin and Winger in a ray of warmth, since he's right beside the lady. Originally, Keeper Zun still wanted to continue his persuasion when this occurred. However, he stopped on the very second that light exploded out to cover the two. He's frozen there, standing like an idiot that didn't know what to make of this reality. What's going on? Why is this not making sense? Is the world making a joke with us? Why is Ruoshi's amulet showing a reaction to Bai Yin? The old witch also saw this, of course. Likewise, she froze for a little bit before breaking out into horror and panic. In a brisk of instinctive desire for survival, she rushed for Bai Yan's spot in order to steal the amulet back. Bang! Unfortunately for the deceiver, things won't turn out that easily in a situation like this. Before Yun Ruo, she could even make contact with those filthy claws of hers. The light shrouding Bai Yin and Winger suddenly turned fierce and threatening, blowing her out dozens of meters away, and letting her puke blood due to the recoiling force. Bai Yin, it's mine, that's mine. Return it to me, give me back what's mine. She gave me the amulet back then, so it's mine now. What right does she have in taking it back? If it was in the past, then the keepers would crowd over to help pick the old witch up. Yet no one did today. They're too focused on what they're seeing, and forgot she existed. I don't remember what happened 1,000 years ago anymore. Her eyes sneering and full of contempt at Yun Ruoshi. But I once had a dream. I dreamed that I personally handed all heaven over to a little girl by the name of Ruo. She so it can protect her. But if I had known you were such a backstabbing witch inside, then I would never have done so. It's only at this point and moment in their lives does the keepers of the celestial palace know what it means to be smacked with a stick. This stick, it hits them hard and dizzying, leaving them unable to think properly. Did Bai Yin just say she gave her the amulet? With their understanding of the old witch's personality, they naturally would believe it to be untrue. But it's clear that the amulet activated because of Bai Yan's touch. It protected her. Turns out they're the idiots. 1. From livid to despair. It's incredibly hard to describe the sort of faces Keeper Zun and the others were making right now. What's going on here, Ruashi? Tell me what's going on. The kind keeper almost could breathe, due to how much panting he was making. We believed in her for 1,000 years, spoiled her for 1,000 years. And at the end of the day the amulet goes and recognizes someone else as the owner? Ha ha ha. It's ridiculous, it's ridiculous. I don't know. Ghostly pale in the face, this slick-tongued deceitful liar that was Yun Ruashi finally met her match today. No matter how smooth and quick-witted that brain of hers was, it's not going to help against reality. I really don't know. Ha ha ha, you don't know. You're telling us you don't know. The more he laughed, the more the tears came rolling down Keeper Zun's eye. Yun Ruashi, we believed in you, we doted you. And now all you have to say to us is you don't know? This time, it's not only the kind-hearted keeper who's been chilled to the bone. The others are also shocked and despairing over the truth. Truly, none of them wants to admit it. Admit to the fact that their choice a millennium ago was wrong. Ha ha ha. As if you people can't tell what's going on here? The old goat casually steps forward. This woman over there stole my mistress's amulet and claimed to be all heaven's owner. Oh right, that name too. She only learned of it through my mouth before. Why else would you idiots not hear about it prior until recently? Keeper Zun became painfully regretful as he closes his eyes slowly. He wants to change the past. But all that came was a weak helplessness from within. Indeed, until recently, we never even heard of the amulet having a name. 1,000 years, Yun Ruashi. You deceived us for 1,000 years. Quivering in the lip, the kind keeper bitterly mutters this aloud. Back then 1,000 years ago when all was well, they too had a good image of Bai Yin, when the old coot brought her back. Who wouldn't like a good talented young girl, right? But it all changed once Yun Ruashi came. She was brought into the celestial palace by Bai Yin herself. According to the story told to them, the girls are childhood friends, and that Yun Ruashi's older brother died protecting Bai Yin, hence the strong level of affection between the two. Going by that detail, it's estimated that's also the time where the amulet was given out to Yun Ruashi by Bai Yin. It's for the older brother's sacrifice. But they didn't tell anyone about the exchange. Otherwise why else would these keepers turn on Bai Yin after being framed as the scourge of the celestial realm? Turns out they're the idiots too. Isn't that funny? Keeper Zun did not hold back the self-mocking laughter inside of himself after that thought. When looking over to Yun Ruashi, his eyes are now entirely filled with disappointment and nothing more. Keeper Zun, you listen to me, it's not like this. The old witch panics and wants to defend herself. However, this poor image she's trying to portray only deepens her guilty image. If you want us to believe in you again, then it's possible. If you can hold on to the amulet, then we will. Hearing this from the senior brought a flicker of hope to the woman's eye. She knows all heaven wouldn't give a reaction to her possession, so she's assuming the amulet wouldn't resist her either. Whatever the case may be, this deceitful old witch had no other choice but to push on. Bringing her broken body up from the ground, Yun Ruashi staggers forward in a frantic manner for the only chance laid before her eyes. Bai Yin didn't hold the other side in her view, though despite what's drawing closer, she's too immersed in her own world right now. Stop right there. Bai Ning wasn't as unfazed as her own daughter though. The lady flew into a rage at what's happening and wanted to push the other side away. However, in truth, she did not need to do anything because a gush of light poured out of the amulet and rocketed the old witch out. Imagine that. Yun Ruashi had already been poisoned and injured from the repeated blows from the past. Now she's being forced to bear another blow from all heaven. No matter how resistant this cockroach was, she's not going to come out unscathed this time around. Why? Winger is like that, and now this amulet is like that too. Why is everyone abandoning me after Bai Yin returns? Sprawled onto the ground with blood continuing to pour out of her mouth, Yun Ruashi had nothing but despair plastered all over those eyes. You robbed my mother's things before, so now it's considered rightfully returned. Bai Shachen chimes in, his big blue eyes sharp and daggering at the foolish one that's on the ground. Despite his young age, The child's already showing the signs of a king, similar to his old man's there. Ho ho! The old goat also speaks up, knowing what everyone was thinking and questioning. All heaven is not a dead object or mortal item. Before it went into slumber, because my mistress was not around. And now that she's returned, it's only normal for the amulet to awaken. Also, he pauses, turning to meet the old witch's despairing gaze. Before, when my mistress gave you all heaven, she wanted it to protect you, so it did. But that doesn't mean all heaven doesn't have a will of its own. When it saw the cruelty and backstabbing nature of your character after you betrayed my mistress, it stopped sheltering you and went into slumber. That's what you get for repaying my mistress's kindness with evil. You deserve every bit of karma you get. It's exactly like Dragon Flame said. All those years ago, when Bai Yen and Yun Ruoxi were still good friends, the amulet did do its part in sheltering the old witch with its miraculous powers. However, that all changed once it saw the fox cub being skinned alive by the old witch. Afterwards, the amulet went into a deep silencing slumber, refusing to activate itself again until this day. Freezing over the truth being pointed out, Yun Ruoxi flew into a rage of her own. Without a care anymore for her own image, she disgustingly snarls back at the old goat like it's some kind of joke. She treating me well? If she treated me well, then why did she not have that old coot take me in as a disciple? All she had to do was say a word, and that's all. Why are all the good things taken over by her, and I'm left with nothing? Pausing as a huge cough overtakes her throat, the old witch seemingly overexerted herself in that rant. If she is nice to me, then why is she taking the amulet back? She gave it to me, so it's mine now. Why should I return it just because she deems it so? If I didn't scheme in delaying it, then she would have snatched it back months ago. Turns out, they're the idiots three. Towards the hissing sound of animalistic instinct from the old witch, many were shocked, with even more horrified by what they're seeing. It's beyond what many thought of the woman based upon the fake image she portrayed, thus causing their brains to clunk up into a stupor. Roshiyu. Keeper Zun was among the shocked individuals here. This kind elder got so overwhelmed that he had to take a step back to gain his footing and to let his mind work through the information. Still in her own world and snickering derisively at everyone, Yun Ruoxi continues to howl out her inner darkness. If she didn't want to steal away my amulet and stole the Lord's heart, I wouldn't have wanted to harm her either. Keeper Zun, you told me what the amulet can do, and its amazing properties, so why should I give it back to her? If I did, my good days would be over. Don't you people get it? Ruoxi, coming back from his initial shock like everyone else, Keeper Ling also lashes out in livid fashion. He's shaking extremely hard due to the swelling emotions of betrayal from within. Tell me this instant that what you said there is not true. Tell me that right this instant. Among the many keepers that looked after her, Yun Ruoxi had the best impression of Keeper Ling, who was among the grumpiest. He treated her the best, so a level of warmth did become born within the witch's heart. However, right as she's about to respond in kind, a derisive and self-mocking laugh cuts her off. What am I doing? What's the point in even listening anymore when reality is in front of me? Yun Ruoxi, you witch, how dare you deceive us for 1,000 years? How laughable. To think I was just saying Bai Yen couldn't amount to an ounce of her goodness. Talk about a face slap I did to myself. Biting her own lips tightly, Yun Ruoxi started to quiver because even that flicker of warmth she had inside died off. Keeper Ling. Ruoxi, do you know how much of a crime you committed? We poured a millennium into you, forced the Lord to marry you, and killed Bai Yen for your sake. Now the Lord won't even return to the celestial palace because of that. Now you're showing us the amulet, all heaven isn't yours to begin with? Do you know what you've done? What you've caused? You've doomed us all. Somber in the face, Keeper Ling the grumpy senior only had despair and pain coursing through those eyes. Yun Ruoxi, even if you die 1,000 times over, you still can't erase your own crimes. Others from the celestial palace are also very unstable in their emotions, all wanting to slaughter the old witch to satiate their anger. Yun Ruoxi naturally didn't get it still, of course, considering the sort of character that was herself. She's confused, not able to comprehend why all her former allies would turn so quickly and want her life after the truth came out. In her mindset, even if she's not the supposed savior, there should still be some sort of feelings in there, since they spent a millennium together, right? Keeper Ling, I didn't harm the celestial realm, I did not, I only hurt Bai Yan. Instead of mounting a proper defense in her argument, that sentence only aroused a stronger level of hatred from the keepers. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.